there tonight.
Of course.
Oh, there's a few people active. Okay then. Let's rock and roll.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, July 13th meeting of the Bennington Select Board. We are coming to you from the Bennington Fire Facility Multipurpose Room on River Street in Bennington. My name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board, and I will ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves. I'm going to start on my left tonight. Jackie?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Matz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clark Adams.
Hello, I'm Jim Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
And I'm Ed Woods.
Also with us this evening is Nancy Lively, who is preparing to take excellent minutes. We have Dan Monks, town manager. We have, looks like Shannon Barsati is handling the Zoom portion of the meeting this evening. We have Tabor Coulter from Cat TV, making sure this gets out into the community. And a full house from the looks of it, so that's always exciting. We'll begin this evening, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clark, could you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And Ed, would you read our vision statement, which guides our work?
I will. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the consent agenda, which consists of minutes from June 15th and June 22nd, the warrants, and the licenses. For the purposes of discussion, could I have a motion to accept, please?
Tom,
I think we can because...
Well, I wasn't at the June 15 meeting.
Oh, we'll parse out June 15. All right, let's amend that. Let's take June 15th first, and I think we can take everything else together.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as stated for June 15th.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions? All right. Oh, and Jim is abstaining. Thank you, Jim. Okay, next, so could I have a motion, please, for the minutes of June 22nd, the warrants and the licenses, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
And the warrants licenses?
Okay. Nothing on the warrants or licenses?
Warrant side too, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Page 3. Want to make sure I got the right ones.
Yeah, there's a few warrants here, so which one are we looking at?
At the top, Nancy will say
630. Page 3, 40, 58, 50.
50.
Yes. Home Depot Credit Service, down near the bottom, skateboard park bathroom, 6807. Skateboard park bathroom, 54964. I have pointed out multiple times that the board gave Shannon $300,000 for the skateboard park a couple of years ago. When she was here in February and said the park would cost the taxpayers $25,000, I said I don't think all the money had been spent, and it hadn't been spent. I don't understand why our taxpayers keep getting charged when that money is sitting in the pennies for park account.
So Nancy, that money will be, this is just showing that that money is spent. Where it comes from, as far as which account, whether it comes from Penny for Parks or another location, that will all be shown in the audit.
Every bit of these payables comes from a place
Yeah.
that has been earmarked.
Yeah.
But the fact that the money was left in February, it should have all been spent last year.
We had some, there was a carryover because it wasn't all spent. And now it will be spent on skate park costs.
Oh, when I discussed it with Shannon, it sounded like it was going to go to something else.
That money can only go to the skate park.
Well, to something else that could be used for pennies for park money. I just think if the board is going to vote to tell the taxpayers, we're spending it on this project, that's where the money should go.
I don't disagree.
Okay? That's it.
Anyone? Clark?
Page 1 of 6, item number 405818, $2,326 for new flashlights. What kind of flashlights are those? Or how many are there?
So that is a police department, I believe, cost from AAA Police Supply. And then maybe then when the chief comes up to do his update, he can discuss the flashlights.
Okay.
Chief, did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No, that's all, thank you.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the minutes, the warrants, and the licenses, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so that's one. Nancy opposed. We have a robust list for public comment this evening. Public comment is a time for the public to share information for the good of the community. I'll remind you that it is not a question and answer period, although if questions that can be answered briefly, we will do so at the end of the public comment period. So you can make your comments, state whatever questions you may have, and sit down, and if there are any that we can cover, we will. Please do try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or fewer. And we will begin this evening with Joe Hayes on the warden.
Hi there. Good evening. We got to turn it on.
You're very good.
I'm Joe Hayes, Assistant Chief of the Bennington Rural Fire Department. What we're here for tonight is legislator last month passed that bylaw that the town wardens will be taken over by the fire chiefs. We understand that there's 2 departments in Bennington that the select board will appoint the first warden, which would be, I do believe Nate Bear's got appointed. The only thing we're requesting is when the deputy gets appointed, that the chief of the rural would get that position, or a chief from the rural would get that position to be Nate's deputy and not somebody else, just so it goes along with the state legislator. That's all.
Thanks.
Everything else is going fine with the warden area, so why change it? We're looking to just have one of our chiefs deputized as a deputy warden. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Deb Mass, Senior Center Elevator.
Deb Matt Bennington. In case some of you don't know, the elevator is completely down at the senior center, has been for over a week now, and probably 3 weeks before that, the door was moving in slow motion. So people were very leery of riding the elevator, afraid they were going to get stuck in it. So we've had a couple of issues trying to get the elevator repairman there, and I am part of the gossip circle because I'm hearing things, so I'm here to ask you. I've heard there's 2 companies that do elevators in the area, and I don't know if we're under contract with one of them or if it's whoever we can get here to work on it. But I know after the first guy came and worked on it, the elevator was in worse shape when he left. And then last week, when the guy finally got here, one of the volunteers talked to the repairman, and he said that they needed 2 parts, and he wasn't sure if they had them in the shop or not. So we're left hanging as to whether they're in the shop, if they have to be ordered, what the status is on getting the elevator repaired, because everybody's asking us, and we don't know the answers. And I have to say that the socialization at the senior center is very important for a lot of people. And with the elevator down, we have functions that these people cannot get to. And the coffee hour we have every morning. So we have coffee hour, we have quilting, we have bingo, we have potluck, and we have people that come in to see about trips. And the lady came in today, and I thought she was going to fall on the floor after making them stairs. She shouldn't have come up the stairs, in my opinion, but she was, you know how the seniors are stubborn, and she had to come up the stairs. So we're just concerned about how long this is going to be down, and if we can get an answer as to possibly when it's going to be repaired, because everybody's asking us, and we don't know. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Next, we have Clark Adams.
Clark Adams, Bennington. My comments have no connection to my official duties with the Select Board of the town or any other organization that I'm affiliated with. I want to express my disappointment and something I saw last week when I was in Washington, D.C. Correction, something I didn't see when I was in Washington, D.C. last week to celebrate the 4th of July and our 250th anniversary for this nation, the complete absence of any representation from the state of Vermont business associations, or any group that could have put a good positive face on this state. There are people from all over the world. The day I was there, I heard a gentleman mention there were 350,000 people on the mall. Vermont, first of all, my wife and I spent an hour and a half. Guess what? We never got to the Vermont Pavilion because we couldn't find it. By the time we found out where it was at, they said, oh, we're closed. Temperature is 101 degrees. Everybody go home. But that doesn't obviate the fact that for some reason the people who claim to lead and represent this state failed to do so on the world stage. People from all over the world, we had a chance to tell them what our state's about. As we all hear time and time again, this is a tourist state. Where was the tourist industry? We hear about our great maple syrup. Where were the maple syrup people? Our dairy. Go down the list of everything that people think of when they think of Vermont, it was absent. I kind of got the impression I was dealing with a petulant child instead of an official state entity. And I'm very disappointed in my state and those people who claim to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Next, we have Keith Carey, Hemmings and Midnight Madness, I'm assuming?
I'm confused by which microphone to go to, so I'm just going to follow everybody else. So, Keith Carey, Bennington, for the Better Bennington Corporation. I just wanted to put out a reminder to everyone that this Thursday from 5 until about 11 is the Hemmings Cruise-In, the Thursday Night Live series, and the annual Midnight Madness for the downtown retailers. We do have several retailers that will be staying open additional hours. Lots of sales going on. I also represent the Gamers Grotto. I will be open until midnight with a 35% off sale for the last hour and a half of the evening for anyone that wants to join me. So just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Martha Mackey on the LEMP. Local Emergency Management Plan. Sorry, Chief.
Martha Mackey, Bennington, Vermont. I'm here representing a local group of community organizers. We're part of the Bennington Organizing in Action local committee. And as many of you know, we've been active organizing around the local emergency management plan updates for, almost 3 years now. So we finished the heat annex in the spring, and you all approved it. And there are a number of requirements for activation, thresholds for temperatures, and the associated actions that are to be taken place. And in the beginning of July, right before the 4th of July, we had a significant multi-day heat wave, which reached all of those thresholds. And yet we saw almost none of the categories, the actions that are supposed to take place, actually activated. So I actually have a little chart here for all of you of the different activations that were supposed to happen, and the ones that did, and the ones that did not. I need one of those back. Sorry, Jackie, that has my notes on it. You can have this one.
Can you make sure Nancy has one for the minutes also?
Sure. Nope. Oh, I left it up there. And I have a few extras for the audience if they would. This as well. So, as I said, this is something we've agreed to as a town. We're required to have this emergency management plan by the state. And it was submitted and approved by the select board and then submitted to the state. And as you can see here, we have when the heat index reaches 95 to 104 degrees, public outreach prior to actual dates of incident. That did not happen. Public outreach by police department and town. The notice was dated 11 a.m. on July 1st. Coordinate organizations with extensive contact lists with the intent of sharing message broadly and quickly. This did not happen. Disseminate information about cooling places and cooling centers. There are 27 potential cooling places, cooling centers, and outdoor sites that are listed and that we've identified. There was incomplete implementation, 4 sites listed on public alert, 11 sites listed on the public alert put out by the town, 11 sites listed on the interactive online map. We have 23 possible cooling places and centers that were not listed by the town, 16 possible cooling places and centers that were not listed on the online map. We are also required to activate cooling places and centers. This was not done. Erect canopies at the splash pad. This was not done. Set up a fire hose at the firehouse. This was done. Cooling centers were to be open for longer hours, not done. Offer water, cold snacks at cooling centers, this was not done. Consider activity modifications and share that alert, that was not done. Mobilize support of networks of community members that we have identified and reached out to previously, this was not done. And to consider opening a cooling shelter, this was not done. Some of us went on the 2nd, to the town office to ask about the lack of response that had happened thus far. Dan Monks being the next in chain of command after the police chief. And Dan Monks was out of town. Jonas Spivak, who is responsible for distributing the information about activations, was out of town. So it fell to Shannon Bersati, who actually has no actual role in this chain of command of emergency management. And she was unfortunately not able to give us a lot of answers. Dan from Building and Grounds informed us that he had had a conversation with the emergency management director, that's Chief Paul Doucette, and that they had decided that nothing could or should be done other than to crank the splash pad. It's clear that for whatever reason, this town was not able to give an adequate response. And this is a huge danger to our community, our vulnerable, our elderly, our infirm. And if a power grid goes down due to energy overload, that puts us all even more at risk. So it's really important that we follow the directives that we have put in place. It appears that, again, there's a limitation in what we're able to do, and therefore it seems that it might be necessary to create a part-time paid position to do the emergency management direction. There is a $10,000 emergency response fund. I don't know if it could come out of there, but we're unable to make the response we need to make. I believe that's the conclusion of my statement. I would like to invite everyone who is here tonight to join me in symbolically making this statement. If you want to stand up and let us know, all of you who have come out because you care about this and you are concerned about the vulnerability of our community, raise your hand or stand up, and I appreciate all of you.
Okay, next, thank you. Sheila Molyneux, same subject.
I'm Sheila Molyneux from North Bennington. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, which for the past 2 years has opened a couple of days, afternoons a week during very cold weather, or during all weather during the winter. We will not be doing that next year because we had a quite limited response to it. And I think some of those responses, that informs also the hot weather emergency. People need to be, people are not really interested in coming to a place that is sort of artificially set up for just, hanging out to be out of the weather. So it's great that we have a lot of places that are willing to let people come in, but they have to know about it. They have to know what the places are and what their hours are, and how to get there, and transportation to get there. So that's a lot of communication, and in a lot of different ways, not just on one website where people may or may not know that to look there, or may not have any access to the internet to find that out. It's a large and possibly complex communication process. Once it's set up, it's not so bad. But there could be a lot of organizations involved. So I just encourage you to look at this broadly and not just as our responsibility is this piece, even though the problem is that big. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. We have Jack Rossiter Munley, the Bennington County Multicultural Center Venezuela Support and Fundraiser.
Thank you. Yes, Jack Rossiter Munley, Bennington, Vermont, and I am here. I'm the director of the Bennington County Multicultural Community Center. I mentioned this the last time I was here in public comment, but just for anybody who might not be aware, that is now an entirely separate organization from ECDC. Those were previously aligned. They are now separate. I just want to make that clear in case anybody isn't. If you have questions about any of that part of things, feel free to send me an email, jackrmbcmcc@gmail.com. But what I'm really here to talk about is the kind of work that the Multicultural Center exists to do, and we had a great example of that this past week. Last Thursday, up at Lake Perrin, we hosted a fundraiser alongside a number of local Venezuelan families to raise money for emergency relief efforts after the 2 massive earthquakes that have rocked Venezuela in recent weeks. There are still over 40,000 people who are unaccounted for in Venezuela, in addition to the official death toll, and there are a lot of really urgent needs there, which is part of why we put this together so quickly as a fundraising effort. But rest assured, this is something that we will be following alongside the Venezuelan families in town and continuing to make sure is something that people here in Bennington can show up for. The fundraiser itself was a huge success. We put it together in just barely a week, and we had both a dinner that was
was prepared by the Venezuelan families, as well as an auction, silent and live. And through all of that, we raised almost $2,000 for some on-the-ground relief efforts that are going on there. We had contributions from different local businesses, including Bennington Potters, the Mountain View Country Club, True Love Farm, the Goat Project, and many others, the Bike Hub. And then, we really did get a sense of the community that can come together and make a difference on a very short notice. So it was a wonderful event, and it is the kind of thing that we look forward to doing a lot more of, both locally, connecting people here in Bennington to all kinds of things that are going on around the world, whether it's emergency relief efforts or other opportunities that are a little bit less grave. So this is both an update on what we've been doing, but also a real appreciation for the way that the larger community can come together and make really meaningful change, even on a very short deadline.
I have a question for Jack.
Thanks. Go ahead.
How much money do you need to raise in total for the Multicultural Center?
That is a larger conversation than public comment, but I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you anytime.
I guess I'm still confused from the last meeting because you were the face of both programs since they started. And I don't understand why you walked away from one, but I do remember, you were very upfront last year. You needed to raise a lot of money for both groups, and I don't understand how the groups can go forward if you're so short on money. I just don't want to see people being brought to Bennington and the program's closed and they're stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's two different questions, so folks from ECDC can answer questions about their funding, and in terms of the path forward with the Multicultural Center, the main difference is that ECDC is a national organization. They're a branch of the national nonprofit, and we're a local organization. That's one of the main distinctions. And then, again, larger conversation than here in public comment in terms of funding needs and program differences. But I'd be happy to meet with you anytime.
Thanks, Jack. Wendy Lyons on the local emergency management plan.
Wendy Lyons, Bennington resident. When extreme heat hits Bennington, we usually tell everyone to find some shade and drink a glass of water. But for our elderly neighbors and residents with disabilities, this advice is not just unhelpful, but it can be dangerous. Disabled individuals face up to 4 times the risk of injury or death during extreme weather. Because many conditions disrupt the body's natural cooling mechanisms, standard stay inside and drink water advice is dangerously inadequate. Tailored, proactive care is an urgent necessity, not an optional luxury. We need to redefine what emergency preparedness looks like for the disability community. Care must be highly individualized. For example, people with spinal cord injuries may not be able to sweat to cool their bodies. Individuals taking certain psychiatric medications or who are on the autism spectrum may experience several severe temperature dysregulation or sensory overload. Furthermore, power outages aren't just an inconvenience for those who rely on electrically powered ventilators, oxygen concentrators, or refrigerated medications such as insulin. A power outage is a life-threatening crisis. During a heat emergency, we cannot wait for disabled people or elderly people to call for help. Many might be isolated at home. We need localized, pre-established support networks. Caregivers, neighbors, and local emergency managers need to be proactive. This includes regularly checking on people who are put in vulnerable situations due to access issues. Also, having backup power sources or chemical ice packs ready and ensuring that public emergency alerts are fully accessible in formats such as ASL for the deaf or hard of hearing. When we plan an extreme heat emergency, disability justice must be at the center of our response. True care means making sure no one is left behind in the heat. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Mike Bethel, you're up.
Could you just lower that phone, please? Thank you. Keep it chat. That's good. Second. That's good. Well, I'm here, a couple things. If you give me an extra couple seconds, because I couldn't make the last meeting because of the weather, the rain. But I am here to support, with conditions, the option tax that you're going to do. I would suggest you do it with total honesty from the board, how you're going to spend the money. It's not going to just be blown in any which direction. I'd like to see 2/3 of it go to lower the property taxes right off the bat. The other third put into, Shannon and I have talked about it, things that bring things to Bennington, attention, to give us a hook why people would even want to come to Bennington. Over the years, we've lost the car show. The chamber was a big part of that. The Moose Fest with Mary Morrissey and the great late Lindy Lynch. We had the Moose Fest, that lasted a couple of years. We had the Panther Puma thing, that lasted a couple of years. People came here to see these things. But right now, we really don't have anything, to see for the last couple of years that we've done. Nothing that people would come by as tourism and everything else to help our town, downtown and everything else. And the third thing, I want to see it sunshined, meaning you do it for 5 years, and if the citizens don't feel that it's worth it, they don't have to re-vote it, and they can put it down. That way there, if you are honest about what you want to do with it, I think this time it will pass. But honesty really is the best policy, and sunshine is nothing to be afraid of. If it's working and the taxes are lower and we got things more coming to Bennington, people are going to see that. The last part of that part of the statement is the DRB gave the okay for the project up on the hill in the old college, SM, whatever it is. And that's going to garnish a lot of extra revenue. Right now, it's predicted that the option tax would bring in $1.8 million, I believe. The gentleman, Michael Cohen, told me that they will bring in, when they're full going, about $300,000 to $400,000 on the option tax one. So that's well over $2 million. Okay, it's going to take time to get it going, but I do believe Bennington needs the money, but I do not want it just laid in the hands of, no offense, Mr. Monks and everybody here, without you people saying, here's what we want, here's where we're going to go. Because if you don't, I think you're going to blow an awful opportunity that people are going to say no. They voted it down last time. I think a lot of people I've talked to say no. But I told them my scenario, and they says, well, if they would do that. If they would do that. So it's up to you people. And I hate to vote for a new tax on anything, but this community cannot grow if we don't have money to invest in it the right way. Our police department needs more money. You could put some of the the 1/3 could go to that. The BBC, to promote Bennington, they run on a very tight budget. I'm glad that they and the town teamed up to put a billboard out there on the West End. I know it's not on Vermont soil, but it's fine. At least people know that, hey, Bennington exists, it's that away. Manchester has 2 of them out there for years, I guess. And the Village Distillery has one. So why we never did one is beyond me. I hope they make the next one a little bit brighter and attention-getting, so people know it's Bennington and here's the way to get to Bennington. But I think if you do a version of what I'm asking, I can further promote it, and I think a lot of other will promote the option tax. And we do need to have money to invest in ourselves. No community is going to make it if they don't invest in themselves. One last thing, I'm very disappointed with the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm looking into why we have to belong to this Chamber of Commerce. When the director can self-appoint himself the CEO of an organization that I don't remember them doing anything since the car show, or anything
with Moose Fest or anything else. And it's time that they start helping Bennington get some attention here. So thank you very much. It was real nice talking to you.
Thanks, Mike. Shannon, do we have anybody online? Person on Zoom, go ahead, identify yourself, and 3 minutes.
Yes, some are going over 3 minutes. Sam Racino, Bennington. Yes, a few things I want to discuss tonight. I'm glad everybody has finally come out to a select board meeting to discuss the issues. Thank you all. July 4th, we had an incident, firearm discharge. No press release, nothing in the banner on it. It was self-inflicted to a person's leg. They had to do a landing zone at the high school because the Welcome Center, you couldn't land there because so many individuals decided to look at the fireworks. I'll be talking with that with Chief Doucette when he does get on the agenda item. Secondly, kudos to the Bennington Fire Department on the hot weather for July, Thursday and Friday. They did a 4 o'clock aerial ladder with water on both days. Thank you for doing that. Something is going to be coming up in August. It was on WTEN. It was also on the Bennington Banner. Didn't catch the people's eye, but it did on WTEN. I wasn't aware that Shirley McClenathan was involved in bringing somebody home from the Philippines after 80 years. I hope we're going to be updated on that, and I hope Bennington comes out in force to honor this gentleman that fought for us. Second thing, this issue with, about the cooling centers. Is the community market on the list? Because the post that they put on, they were opened their arms to be a community center. We also have, people are saying that they're not getting the information. I run a page, Bennington Town Info. Get on it, learn about it. I share a lot of information out there. It seems like people don't get it. They don't read it in the banner, but they can also go on social media and get the information that I usually share out. We've got WBTN and we got Channel 10. I got a good rep report with Channel 10. Channel 10 could mention about the cooling shelters and whether we're in a high heat index on that. The billboard, saw that today. I wish they did the one over by where Manchester has theirs. The one over on the left, it's way off out of the perimeter of the left eyeball when you're going east into Bennington. You know, there's so much into that billboard, you're lucky enough you got 1 second before you go by and try to read what's going on it. So you got to shorten up the words. And yes, I agree with Mike Bethel. Better Bennington and the Chamber of Commerce better work hand in hand together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Anyone else online, Shannon? Is there anyone in the audience that didn't have a chance to sign up that wants to speak for public comment? All right, very good. Dan, do we know anything about the senior center elevator?
Yes, I do. So first, Deb, if you ever want information about elevator or anything else at the senior center, just give a call to the town office, but I'm glad that you did raise it so we could let everybody know here tonight. We have been working with Otis Elevator, who we're under contract with, to do maintenance at that elevator, and as well as other elevator, the fire department elevator. They have ordered the necessary parts, and they hope to have them in a couple days. Unfortunately, the elevator cannot function until those parts are on hand. And so we have been working on it since we knew it was not functioning. And finally, we have it diagnosed and we have parts on the way.
Excuse me, can I just ask one question? Is mine going to be all right getting the hell out of here with that elevator?
Should be fine.
You paid your bill? Have you paid your elevator bill?
Let us know.
Ed, don't be nasty.
Dan, do we have the stop button ready for when Mike gets on?
Oh, by the way, the door ones don't open. The button that opens the doors out there, you have to turn them on. They don't work.
This morning, the light didn't come on when you hit the button.
It's a little sketchy getting in here in a wheelchair. And by the way, I forgot to say, Ed has volunteered with the rest of you select board members. We're going to set up a dump tank this summer in the very hot weather so that we can raise some money for the town of Bennington.
All right, thank you.
And relevant to the elevator in this building, you'll recall that part of the money that was budgeted for the improvements to this facility included the elevator and the roof, so there will be a new elevator equipment installed this year.
We're slightly behind already. That's fine. We have sand filter update project, overview bond loan applications. Larry Gates and Jeffrey Lewis.
Good evening. My name is Larry Gates. Jeff Lewis from A&E. He's our engineer on the project. I'm just going to do a short little presentation on the actual overall of wastewater, and then we'll dive a little bit more into the filter, the project that we're looking to work on. So the first slide. There we go. So the Bennington Wastewater Treatment Facility is operated under the state's direct discharge permit 3-1261 with a permitted flow of 5.1 million gallons per day. It was originally constructed in 1960, upgraded in 1985 with additional upgrades completed in 1993 and 2018. The Bennington Wastewater Treatment Facility currently takes in and treats approximately 1.5 billion gallons of sanitary sewage each year. That's about 4.1 million gallons per day, which falls under the permitted amount issued. Wastewater enters the facility and first passes through a mechanically cleaned fine screen to remove any larger inorganic materials. Flow then continues to an in-plant pump station where it is lifted into two primary clarifiers. This is a photo of the primary clarifiers in these two tanks. Raw sewage is pumped into them, and these tanks separate any solids from the water stream. So any of the solids will either sink to the bottom or float to the top. And then they're removed and sent on to the primary digesters. The water passes through these primary clarifiers and goes to the water handling section of the treatment plant, which we'll get into next. These are the primary digesters. These are two large anaerobic digesters that act like a human stomach, really. They're heated to 98 degrees. They're filled with millions or billions of anaerobic microscopic bugs that eat at the sludge and decompose it further. They create methane gas. The methane gas is then reused to heat the digesters. From the digesters, we pump the sludge to the dewatering and composting facility. So on your left, you see a 3-meter belt dewatering press. The sludge is pumped onto that press, and there is 2 porous belts that squeeze the sludge together, and removing most of all the water turns it into a sludge cake. The sludge cake is then added with wood chips and put into our compost facility, where it's brought up to a certain temperature for 3 days. This makes this an EQ biosolid so that it does pathogen reduction and kills any of the any pathogens. These are the RBCs. These do a lot of work in the plant. So this treats the water. The water is pumped through these flows through these RBCs. These are rotating biological contactors, which are filled with lots of plates and lots of surface area that contain billions of little bugs, microscopic bugs, that are doing all the work to further treat the water. When the bugs are full, they fall off and are removed in a different secondary clarifiers. As the bugs die off, they will remove secondary clarifiers. Secondary clarifiers are the next step before treated effluent is filtered, chlorinated, and then dechlorinated just prior to discharge to the Woolumsac River. This is a page of our permit, the newest permit that was issued in 2024 to the wastewater treatment facility. It now has a limitation imposed on total phosphorus. The limit is 3,260 pounds annual load and a 0.21 milligrams per liter monthly average. The wastewater treatment facility must comply with these new restrictions by December 31st of 2028. Up until this point, we had no limits. We were a monitor only and recording. So we have years of data, but no limit. There's a few options to remove phosphorus. RBCs do remove a small amount of the phosphorus already. There are disc filters, there's chemical addition. The sand filters will remove very little phosphorus. Chemical addition is a polymer that will join small particles together to create a larger particle that will settle out in the clarifier. The amount of chemical needed and its cost ultimately is not cost effective on that scale. Using the disc filters by themselves will remove a portion out of the effluent wastewater, however, is not efficient enough to do it on its own with our new limit restrictions. The best solution would be to use both, a small amount of chemical and then finish it off with the disc filters. Existing, this is the some photos of the existing sand filter. It was built in 1985. This sand filter was used only seasonally when the rivers were at low flow. This acted as an additional filtration before discharging into Woodland Sac River. The 3,200 square foot structure and filter system is beyond its life expectancy and is failing. Poor integrity of individual filter cells has led to excessive sand loss and requires regular replenishment. With the age of the backwash system, and it's increasingly difficult and costly to acquire replacement parts. The proposed plan would be repurpose this building to house the disc filters and chemical addition system if approved. After looking at different options, the disc filter and chemical system combination is the best option to replace the failing sand filter process at our plant. The location of this combination process would be in the existing sand filter building, allowing us to reuse the building's current footprint, saving thousands on excavation and concrete. The photo to the right is of one of the plants we toured in New Jersey in December. Their disc filters are sitting where an old sand filter was as well, a very similar and successful operation and reuse plan. This photo is of one of those disc filters that we went and saw. Didn't really understand how they worked until we actually saw it. This cycle takes, so this is a backwash, so once the filter plugs up, it backwashes and goes right back into service. It's all automated and it takes about 5 minutes to do the backwash. The backwash water, you can see getting washed down the center trough and it goes back to the headworks where it's further treated. The finished water goes on to the next stage. This is a photo of what the filters are that we're looking at. This is one of the actual models that we went and looked at, which is 100% stainless steel. The mesh, the filtering device is actually stainless steel mesh. There are multiple sections in each filter, kind of like a pie, and we can remove a few bolts and remove a section if it was damaged or needs to be replaced. They're very convenient and easy to work on. This is a before and after picture. So this video is from a plant in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey that we toured. This plant had 2 sand filters and they replaced both of them with 3 disc filters. So what you're seeing is an old sand filter, and as the video plays you can see the 3 disc filters in the footprint of the sand filter. So that's the 3 disc filters there. And when it first opened up, it was the sand filter. Cost. The total estimated cost for the project is about $4,950,000. This includes engineering, design, construction, and equipment installation. Some possible revenue sources. A bond vote. A bond vote would be required no matter which funding source we went with. State revolving loan fund, capital reserve, and fund balance. Due to the cost, a bond vote would be required no matter which funding option we chose. If we applied for the state revolving loan fund, it could possibly open up some grant opportunities. This could include as much as 50% off the design cost and potentially 20% off the construction costs through a pollution control grant. However, these are not guaranteed. The use of some capital reserves and fund balance monies may be able to be used as part of the mix of the funding. Options for financing this project will be prepared by the finance director and town manager for the select board's review. So these are a few different scenarios. Cost impacts at the some assumptions that we're kind of going by. The estimate of $4,950,000, a 20-year bond, a 2% admin, and then a few other, the usage of wastewater, depreciation costs. But option A would be a one-time 12.4% increase to the rates of the sewer users, which would, this is bond payment only, would be a $52 increase per year. Option B would be a combination. That's an 8.5% rate increase annually for 3 years and fully consume the reserves. The reserves is an estimate of $268,000, $299,000. That rate, that $24.82 would be the yearly increase for the rate user for 3 years. Option C would be reserve fund and balance only. Consume the reserve fund balance with no additional impact to the ratepayer over the typical annual rate increases. So this breaks it out a little bit farther. If the FY28 rate forecast is $177 per quarter or per year, what it would be for the FY29 on each scenario. Kind of breaks it out, but the bond and depreciation is the three numbers all the way to the right. The typical 5% increase would be the $35.48 per year annually. Some pros and cons. Option A, pros, only a one-time additional increase removes uncertainty for future years of forecasting. Reserve is still available for projects. Fund balance is preserved for future major upgrades. Reserve and fund balance available for emergencies. Only 1 year of restricted capital purchases. Option A, cons, is nearly a 2.5 times a typical annual increase. Option B, pros, it's a smaller impact to the ratepayer. The fund balance remains untouched. Option B, cons, 3 years until project is fully funded through rate revenue. Future uncertainty that could result in a larger increase than this projection. Reserve funds are fully consumed, and there's no room for capital purchases for 3 years without causing a larger increase. Option C, pros, no impact to the ratepayer. Option C, cons. 5+ years until project's fully funded through rate revenue. Future uncertainty that could result in a larger increase than this projection. Reserve funds are fully consumed. Consumption of the fund balance that could be better served by saving for emergencies or till the next full upgrade. And no room for capital purchases for 5 years without causing a larger increase. That concludes my presentation.
Is that in our packet?
Yes.
Yes.
It is?
Well, it was emailed to everybody afterwards, yes. And it was posted online. So we'll also be recreating a web page with all this information on it as well. And I think, I don't want to get into too much detail without Melissa here to talk about those options, but we wanted to give folks kind of like the range of options. You could just rely on rate increases, you could just rely on fund balance and reserves, and then you could do something in the middle where you did some increases over a number of years, and you use some reserves or some fund balance or some combination thereof. So that decision is a decision to be made in the future, but we wanted folks to know kind of like the range that you could look at, and there could be hundreds of permutations of those options, but those are just kind of one extreme on each end and then one in the middle that kind of blends both options of using some reserves and also raising rates over a period of time as opposed to a one-time hit. And it's really going to be up to you folks in discussions with our finance director what you think is the most appropriate way forward for our ratepayers. Now, the bottom line is nothing's free, right? So if we use all the fund balance and the reserves, then the next time we need to do an upgrade, which we know is coming soon, then we won't have any fund balance or reserves to cushion that. So it's all got to be considered when you folks make that decision. And again, that decision actually doesn't have to be made until probably 2029 or so. And Jeff's giving me tell me that's correct.
So the SRF program does not require that you restart payment until 1 year following construction. So our recommendation would be to fund this project through the state revolving fund program. They lump all of the loans that you accrued through your planning, your final design, and your construction into one loan, and they don't ask for you to start paying that back until 1 year until the project is completed. So we're still pre-bond vote, so we're still a little bit away from there, but it's good to be thinking about these things down the line. But it would be approximately 2029 if we complete construction in 2028 that this would go into effect.
So there will obviously eventually be an impact, and you folks can make the determination of how much or how little of the reserves and or fund balance you want to consume with regard to repayment of this particular bond.
On this night, kind of where we are in the project is trying to get through the funding for the final design effort that is currently underway. I believe in your packet you have SRF applications for the Step 1 funding and the Step 2 funding. Step 1 is just a fancy word for planning. That's the already completed study. As mentioned in there, we completed the preliminary engineering report. The total cost for that was $29,700. If you go through the SRF program, you would expect to have a subsidy of 50%, so $14,850 would be taken off the top, and you would owe $14,850 on that loan. The way that the SRF program works is, like I said, ideally they like to put everything into the construction at the back end. If you guys were to stop the project today, then they don't start asking for payment to begin until 5 years after that loan was completed. So 5 years from now, you would start paying a 0% loan on half the effort for the Step 1 part of this project that was already completed. It's our recommendation that you apply for that funding, as it gives you 50% subsidy and very favorable terms to repay. And then the other thing in front of you is for Step 2, the SRF application for the final design effort. We had a 30% meeting today where we reviewed the basis of final design, talked through some of the next steps, and projected how we're going to get from where we currently are to bidding the project early 2027 and getting through the bond vote period that we're looking at. That effort is for a loan of $224,700. You are eligible for up to $100,000 of subsidy per year, so that would finish off $85,150 of subsidy would be eligible for that. So that is a loan for $139,550. And again, that has the same thing. If you never go forward to construction, 5 years from now, you would start repaying back at a 0% interest rate. It would be what we're currently asking for. Ideally, it all gets lumped into the construction when all of the subsidies that Larry alluded to would be known and get factored in. Just wanted to talk about what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, so just to clarify what we're seeking tonight, kind of three things. Two of them are pretty administrative, and we've discussed them in the past, and that's really just approving these state revolving loan fund applications so that we can get the funding for the somewhat retroactively on some of this for the planning and as well as the design work. And then essentially we don't need a vote tonight, but we would appreciate consensus that you want us to continue to move forward with a bond vote in November. That way we can set all the deadlines for Jeff and his team so that we have all that information available to you folks well before that, so that we can put together the bond vote language, get a formal vote from you folks, do the notices, et cetera. So I think that can happen. We'll likely make that happen in early September, so that you folks can have plenty of time. But this is probably the fourth or fifth time we've been before you. I always learn something new every time Larry presents about the wastewater treatment facility. But again, tonight we're really just looking for a motion to approve both the Step 1 and the Step 2 loan applications, and appoint me as the authorized individual with regard to these loans. And then we don't need a vote per se, but definitely consensus that you folks want us to continue working diligently towards a bond vote in November. And unfortunately, this is not much of a choice because the state is requiring us to install infrastructure to deal with phosphorus. And we do believe, I know that the team at the wastewater treatment facility, and I know Jeff and his team at Aldrich and Elliott believe the best way forward is to move with a November bond vote so we can get this out to bid and constructed in time to meet our deadline so we can avoid the possibility of fines or other types of penalties from the state.
So before we hear the motion, I think I will open it up for any questions for Larry's presentation, because I don't want to be restricted to the conversation necessarily on these two applications. So does anyone have any questions for what Larry talked about at the beginning presentation? Clark?
Hey, Larry, thanks again. I was listening to your presentation, and you showed a picture where the other place you visited, their previous sand filter was converted over to use this. Now, in the process of us doing that here, how's that going to impact our water purification activities here when we take that offline to post filters?
So currently, right now, our permit does not require us to run that all the time. Our old permit did when the river was low. The new permit the state issued, I think knowing this project was coming down in its condition, we're not required to run it. It has not run since 2 years. It has not run. So we're still making our permit levels. We're meeting all of our standards. It's just the sand filter just does not work, period. Oh, okay. It does. We have to have something in place for phosphorus by that day.
And these new devices that you're looking to install, what's the life expectancy on those? I heard you mention you can take out panels and nuts and bolts and swap them out. What's the life expectancy on that?
Yeah, so the typical overall wastewater life expectancy that is put on everything is about 20 years. Each individual component might be a little bit lower. So for example, those individual filter discs that are meant to be replaced would be, I think, 10-year items is what they're projecting them as. But the expectation would be that there would need to be a more thorough refurbishment, as with all wastewater treatment facility equipment, in approximately 20 years.
So this facility will outlive the bonding? Would you be fair to make that statement?
I believe that they are concurrent. It's a 20-year bond, and it is a 20-year life expectancy. We can't bond for longer than the life expectancy of the equipment through the SRF program.
But that being said, one of the ones that the facilities we looked at in New Jersey, one of the facilities had been in operation for 9 years, and it looked like it was brand new still. They have a nice facility, they take good care of it, but it literally looked like it was brand new still. So I think that's an advantage with the stainless steel over the cloth media. Cloth media gets to be a maintenance nightmare, and the stainless steel seems to be a proven device.
So I will just guess that as we go forward with this, we'll have to look at, with the 20-year life expectancy and the bond 20 years, start working 20 years in advance to get another bonding going.
So it wouldn't necessarily be as full of an effort in 20 years. Currently, we have a significant amount of work to do to make the building appropriate for this application. We've got to pour new walls, build a whole new building around it. As part of constructing this improvement, we're looking at the future. There's a planned lift system that is being included as part of this to make replacement in the future easier. It's part of the typical kind of life cycle of equipment. While the typical recommendation is 20 years, your sand filter also had a 20-year life expectancy when it was installed, and I believe you guys got 38 years out of it. So no guarantee that you can always get that, but as an engineer, I feel that the need to point out what has happened in the past and what the recommended numbers are.
Great, thank you.
Does this $5 million, does this include all the engineering work prior to now and going forward and all the construction?
That is correct.
So even with labor materials going up, you think it could stay at $5 million?
That is my current goal. I am looking at doing a revised cost estimate prior to the bond vote to make sure that we still feel confident with that number. We pulled this together as part of the preliminary engineering report, which was, I think, in December. So it's a fairly fresh number for your planning purposes.
And is this $5 million included, or is this in addition to the $20 to $40 million we recently learned in additional water and sewer projects?
This was part of the presentation that was given on May 17th, I want to say, that Larry talked about. This was part of Larry's presentation. I don't know for sure the exact figure you're talking about, but it was discussed as part of that overall discussion.
I don't know if Larry would know this. Is this included in all those future projects, or is this separate?
This is separate. This is one building that we would be doing.
So we're still looking at the 20 to 40 million plus paying to expand?
I think what Nancy's asking is whether or not it was part of our capital plan, and I believe it was.
This was part of our capital plan, for sure. So this doesn't include all of the items on the capital plan.
Right.
Okay.
It's just one of many projects
yes.
on the capital plan. Yeah.
And are we going to be asking people to approve a bond without knowing how we're going to pay for the bond in November?
No, of course we would be projecting. That's why we showed those two slides at the end, that we're going to have a projection of what the rate impact would be, and so yes, we will definitely have a plan for how to pay for it.
Okay, because I heard that we didn't have to decide until.
Well, we don't have to decide exactly how we're going to pay for it. We know it's going to be a combination of reserves, fund balance, and/or rate increases, so that you folks can do one or any combination of all of those to get to pay for the vast majority of it. So I would recommend that we give the taxpayers a very clear indication of where this board is headed, but you don't have to actually make that decision about how big of a rate increase you're going to make versus using fund balance versus using reserves until 2029. There's no final decision that needs to be made until then when you set rates for that year.
Okay. Well, but options tax would be something. We could use options taxes to pay for it, correct?
You could. It's an interesting question because the water and sewer funds are not taxpayer-funded funds. They're user-funded funds. So it would be up to you folks whether that was a fair use of local option tax money.
Well, I think looking at the big costs we have going forward, I think options taxes would be the way to go.
Certainly worth a discussion. I do want to, Clark brought up the 20 years and then it's probably going to need a bond again. What I do want to make sure that folks know is, due to Melissa's diligence, our finance director, we do fund depreciation. So as that equipment ages, we'll be funding the decrease in that value, so that presumably in 20 years we'll have a good amount of fund balance, hopefully, to offset, not completely obviously because prices increase, but a significant amount of that. So because we haven't been doing depreciation since we first put this plant together, we don't have a fully funded depreciation, but we're getting, as the years go by, we're doing better and better in funding depreciation so that we don't have as big a hits as we have to replace this equipment in these buildings.
And on the sewer reserve fund, do you ever have to tap in that throughout the year if we have an unusually high amount of breaks that our crews go out and fix? Do they ever have to tap into that during the year?
The last time we used that was the County Street when the sewer collapsed, and we had to replace that big, large sewer on County Street.
And that all came out of the reserve fund, didn't it?
We consumed about $1 million out of the reserve fund.
So that's why we have reserve funds, is for those types of unexpected emergencies.
Well, we have to, as I understand it, bond for the full amount of the projected cost. Are there some opportunities for grants or forgivable loans that would offset that full amount?
Yes, there is. I think Larry mentioned up to possibly 20%.
Yes, so you're required to fund the required to bond for the entire total project cost, and things that we know that you're going to qualify for, such as even the engineering subsidy up at the front, we know right off the bat. When we get into construction, we'll have a much better idea of what your funding package will look like when we get closer. The state does a priority list program, and the town has been putting in priority list applications in January of every year. Our previous applications have indicated that you would be qualifying for somewhere around 20% construction subsidy. There are additional subsidies that the town could qualify for, such as a disadvantaged MHI subsidy, and there are more opportunities for lowering the overall debt obligation on your voter or your sewer rate payers. We typically have a much better projection of that around the bond vote time. When we go to a bond vote, we'll have an updated cost estimate and a better shakeout as far as what we're projecting that you'll receive from the state for subsidy. Regardless of what we project that you're going to receive for subsidy, you still have to bond for the full $5 million, let's call it. But there are additional funds. The two big ones would be a 20% construction subsidy through the pollution control grant program, and I believe that Bennington qualifies as a disadvantaged MHI, and I believe that there's up to another $1 million in subsidy on that one as well. So we're talking significant dollar figures that are available.
And Jim, and I know you know this, but maybe not everybody, let's say we pass a bond for $5 million. If the project cost comes out to be 3.5, we just borrow 3.5. We don't have to borrow the full 5. It's up to the $5 million, and that's what the bond bank will require, regardless of what the projected subsidies are. So we have to put that number out there, even if we feel relatively confident by the time we are voting that we're going to get a 20% subsidy. We're not allowed to reflect that in the actual bond vote.
Two of the last water projects, we actually were awarded 50% subsidy on the construction cost, and we didn't know that until the project had started. So Gage Street, we got almost $700,000 knocked off our loan forgiveness, and then the project that's going on right now on South End will be 50% off the construction, non-forgivable. So it's pretty, but we didn't know it going into it until it was time to get there. We're there now.
Anyone in the public have any questions?
Tom?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie.
I'm gathering from the slides that we looked at that using the reserves is maybe preferable to using the fund balance. But I think I also just heard you say that reserves are more for like emergencies and fund balance is for these kinds of like expected upgrades?
You know, and it's a very good question because, I mean, money is money, right? Whether you call it a reserve or fund balance, it's fungible and it can be used for whatever the board directs it to be used for. I would say that before we decided to consume a significant amount of reserves and/or the fund balance, that we very seriously consider what that impact will be to the ratepayer down the road when we have to do the other capital projects that are projected in the next 5, 10, 20 years. If you ask Melissa, she's going to tell you don't use any reserves or fund balance, but it's really up to you folks how you want to deal with that rate impact.
Because we've been trying to build up those reserves and that fund balance, but we're not there yet.
Right. Okay. And we're getting closer every year, but we spent decades, half a century not funding depreciation, and thanks to Melissa's due diligence and the boards in the recent past who have agreed to do that, we are now starting to see significant depreciation funds building up that can help to offset some of these replacement costs.
Okay. And then for RJ, I guess, one thing that I remember from the time that I toured the facility, and I think we've had a few discussions here about this, is that there's been some challenges with disposing of like the compost and the sludge and those things. My very, very cursory research about these disc filters and the chemical precipitants that you use is that they would increase the amount of sludge that you're having to deal with. Is there enough capacity for that? Is that going to be like the next thing that we have to look at?
There is. It will be a very minute increase in the sludge handling. What we're removing is basically microscopic particles. So from the wastewater that's measurable in a lab, we are having issues with PFOA in our sludge, which makes it difficult to manage, but we're working through that. The disc filters would not add sludge to that.
Okay. And then just because I'm expecting that this is coming up for a vote in November, like I think it's just important for the public to hear that these new standards for phosphorus are not at all a reflection of the performance of the wastewater treatment facility. They've been doing really great work, but those standards are driven by the needs of the river that they're releasing into, and it has nothing to do with what's going on inside of the treatment facility. So I think that's an important thing to understand, is that the DEC is looking at the environment around the facility and using that to determine what the levels are, and so that's where we are now.
And it is a new requirement. It's not something we've ever had to address in the past. So.
Anyone else? All right, then I would hear a motion to accept these two loan applications before us.
Step 1 and Step 2.
Step 1 and Step 2.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, go ahead. Is he there? I haven't heard the motion yet, so I'll hear.
Hello? Hello? Have you heard me?
Go ahead, Sam. Go
yes. Why wasn't this information, this PowerPoint put in the packet? It was mentioned in the packet, but it wasn't put in. And this is what I stress. When we talk about things on the agenda, not all the information is out to the general public. It comes out to the after the fact, and then we have that statement. It's on the website. I can't comment unless I work with the information from the packet that I get in the general public to do it. And this is what I mean. You know, we can't run luxury items and fix infrastructure. I strongly urge that we work on infrastructure. We just had a bad water main break on County Street. I'm speaking to the masses. How many more water breaks are we going to have? We got to build those reserves up. Knock it off on the luxurious items and start taking care of our house. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, now I would hear that motion, please. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the Step 1 and Step 2 state revolving loan fund applications and to designate the town manager, Daniel Monks, as the authorized representative for the project.
I would second that.
Do we have a second?
I would second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board?
Just so I'm sure, we're going to discuss this again before November, and we're going to decide how this bond will be paid for?
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. But you're absolutely correct. These are just to finance the rest of the...
Okay. But then the question is, the options tax. I mean, if we have to decide...
Off topic, I'm sorry, that's...
Yeah, that's a separate discussion, but it is something we will be discussing at some point.
As a potential source of town revenue, it's an option. The option is an option.
But that's as far as we can go tonight, because there is no such thing as a local option tax in Bennington today.
Right. And we are not tonight asking for a bond vote in November yet, because we haven't. Because we haven't.
We're going to have it on the ballot in November. I just want to make sure we're going to discuss this, and then we have to lock in which way we're going to choose to fund it before then?
No.
Okay,
no.
all right, that's all I wanted to make sure of.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
And Tom,
Hope everybody brought a pen.
Tom, I'll pass these down. Now, the state of Vermont doesn't recognize Bennington as a unique 7-member board, so there's only 5 places to sign. So if you're the 6th and 7th person, just make sure you get your signature in there somewhere.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you again.
See you in a couple months.
No doubt.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Larry.
All right, next, we have our police department update from Chief Doucette. I thought you... Come on up.
Where are all my friends going? Good evening, everyone. Paul Doucette, Chief of Police and Public Safety Director for the town of Bennington. It's been a while since I visited with you in reference to the police department. As Mr. Haley reminded me not too long ago, I'm not known for my brevity. So I have made notes. I'm going to stick to those, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions and hopefully bring you some positive information. We'll start off with some information that I was asked today about the whether or not the Bennington Police Department is using flock cameras down on Northside Drive. So I just want to start with that and get that out there within my time limit to let you know that those white boxes that you see down on Northside Drive are not flock cameras. Those white little boxes that you see above the traffic lights are actually sensors. And if you stop and think for a few minutes, they started the Peanut Project. I'm not here to answer any questions about that. There were actual cameras above the traffic lights on Northside Drive, that whole strip. And as part of that project down below by Bennington College and up Northside Drive was to install new sensors. And that's exactly what those are white, those little white boxes that you see are sensors. If you notice, you'll see them pointed in different directions. So I met with a representative from the Agency of Transportation today. We started at Aldi's, and we went all the way down Northside Drive, and we looked at the angles that they were pointed at, and it all made sense to me. Now, I knew that they weren't flock cameras, but I didn't want to come to the select board meeting tonight and say, XYZ, and then have someone ask me from the audience or wherever, are you sure? And I'm sure, but at the same time, I just wanted to make sure that I met with someone from AOT. So that is the answer. So if you're driving down Northside Drive, the police department is not tracking your movements. We're not running your registration plate. We're not running your driver's license. Those cameras are, excuse me, those sensors are set up so that if you pull up to the traffic light and there's no one there and you're sitting there, it will cycle the light quicker. So that's what that's for. So no flock cameras there. The stop bars, it's a great time to remind people that you need to pull up to the stop bar in order for that sensor to detect your vehicle. Not everybody's pulling up to the stop bar, and I had this on my list to discuss anyway. Lieutenant Randy and I talked about it. Not everybody pulls up to the stop bar, and if you're not up on the stop bar, you're not going to activate the sensor. So hence, please, when you're down going through the traffic there, you need to get up on that stop bar. The other question that has come up with some folks, and I thought I would address this tonight as well, is why is there a red strobe light above some of the traffic lights on Northside Drive? Well, that is an addition, it's a new addition, and that is for an emergency vehicle sensor. And if you have the opportunity, for example, the Bennington Rural Fire Department, their chiefs have since left after public comment here, that is set up so that as their vehicles approach, or a North Bennington fire truck coming into Bennington, or a Bennington fire truck going into the rural district, they can actually be installed in a police car for about $350. We don't have any at the police department right now. It emits a signal, and as you're approaching the traffic light, that sensor on top will pick up that signal, and it will cycle the light so that the emergency vehicle can get through the intersection without having to catch a red light. It hopefully turns the light green. So it's all about an upgrade on Northside Drive. So for people that are at home and people that are here in the audience, and you're saying to yourself, well, Northside Drive is just Rutville anyway. How could you get going that fast? So there is some good news about Northside Drive. It is a state road, and I don't work for the Agency of Transportation, but I was extremely pleased with the information that I was provided today, that there's going to be some extensive work on Northside Drive before the end of the year, fixing things along Northside Drive. So I know that probably you all on the select board get comments about the ruts and the potholes, and when it rains, holy, right? So, but there's some positive things coming out, but again, I don't work for them, so I can't tell you that the road's going to be ground down and resurfaced. Get it? So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because I know that there was some questions, and the other question was, are we using LPRs? And in Bennington, we're not using LPRs. Communities around us to our west are using the LPRs still, but we are not. So I'm just sharing that with you. A lot of people fear the whole Big Brother thing. So on a negative note, we did lose another police officer effective today, in fact. We had an officer with 2 years of service to the Bennington Police Department resigned this month effective today, and is going to an agency where they will be compensated $9 more per hour and offered health care at no cost. So we're going to struggle a little bit with that. However, we do have a recruit that went last week and passed the PT test and has made it through the entire hiring process and will be attending the 17-week residential program, about 800 hours of training starting in August. So that's a positive. On another positive, we do have an officer who left employment with the police department and for personal reasons, and things are back on track, and they are looking to return to the Bennington Police Department starting in September. So they would like to come back around September 1st of 2026. Lieutenant Grandy and I are reviewing the process to get that person recertified to level 3 in Vermont and hopefully put them back to work. That will be something that I discuss with the town manager when the time is right and we have all of the information. So lose one, hopefully gain two. It's not how we like to do things, but we are in the process of seeing some folks that are applying with us now that are getting through the testing, and hopefully we'll be able to make some strides forward. So I know in speaking with Mr. Haley, there was some questions about recruiting and retention for the police department. Often, even when I'm out with my wife, people will come up and ask, what is the town of Bennington, what is the police department doing, or what can we do to recruit and retain people for you? Well, it's not for me. It's for the town of Bennington, and it's for the police department. And you know, right now, I just want everybody to know that we were ready to move forward with the police union and try to work some things out with the police union. But now there's a change. Potential change with the police union. So right now the officers are working without a contract or a working agreement. That is of no fault of the town of Bennington or the select board. That is just something that we have to work through, and waiting on a decision which I do not believe has come down yet from the labor board. But again, the select board has been eager to work with the representatives from the police department on seeing what we can do to enhance the working conditions within the department. But we have to now wait for the labor board to make a decision, and then we can start negotiating. I think that the morale is positive within the police department at this point. We just have to look at this as a select board and as a community, and we have to look at fair rates of pay and benefits and make sure that we're doing everything that we possibly can to recruit and retain together as a group.
Chief, I just want to clarify, because some people may not have grasp what you were saying. So the police department officers were represented by the one union, and there's another union that hoped to represent them, and there was an election at the end of June, and that election, the results came through, and a new union, it appears, was chosen, but that has to all be approved by the Vermont Labor Board. So there's nothing. That's the only reason the labor board is involved, is that they have to essentially certify the new union as representing the police department. So that's where that delay came in. I know you explained that, but maybe some people didn't realize that there was one union, they're moving to another union, and that's why we were delayed.
Yeah, I think it would be easier to be able to stand in front of all of you and the community and explain using names and things like that, yeah. But I'm not prepared to do that. Right. I just want, because some people think that it's the fault of the select board. Some people think it's the fault of the town manager, and I'm sure the people that don't talk to me think it's the fault of the chief. And it's not anyone's fault here because we were ready to move forward. And it's not an officer's fault. They just think that they're going to be represented better by this other police union. It's very difficult for members to be paying $13 a week, and we never see a representative from the union that is currently representing them. And then when you try to move away from that police union, they want to fight the fact that we want to pull out. I've been around for just about 37 years. We've always been a unionized police department, but right now this particular union does very little, and so hopefully this change will make things better. I encourage you. I'm not going to waste my time with you tonight. Police departments around Vermont are doing everything that they can to recruit and retain. Lieutenant Grandy and I, we have our Monday morning meetings, and it's very difficult to look at a department like Burlington, these departments up north that we're competing against to bring people to the southern part of the state. Burlington PD just posted some crazy numbers, I really don't want to get into that, but I mean it's hard to compete when we have the pay rates that we currently have. So I ask that we just, when we're ready, that we go into this with an open mind.
Can I ask a quick question on the topic of contract before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Are our officers currently represented by an old contract, an expired contract? Are they being represented at all right now?
Yes, sir. So the way it works is we will follow the current working agreement
until a new one's negotiated.
So the last collective bargaining agreement is still in place for negotiation purposes?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes. So I want to just talk about there's some hot topics that continue to come up. Speeding in and around Bennington. So I want to let you know that under the authorship of Lieutenant Grandy, with my approval, we were able to secure funding for some traffic calming signs. At the same time, the Select Board has some funding available. Not as many signs as we would have liked to have seen, but we were able to obtain from Traffic Logics some safe place evolution traffic calming signs. And two of them we just received, and the other three were ordered today. And once they come in, the folks from Public Works, the lieutenant and I, along with the supervisors, are going to learn how to install those signs. I went to move one out of the lieutenant's office today. We were going to take a picture so we could show you. Whew, that thing's heavy. But that's why we have Public Works. No, I'm just kidding. So with that being said, we're in the process. These are very nice signs. We actually thought we were going to play a video for you. The music was really cool, and we thought we'd get you upbeat, but it kind of made me want to speed. The music was that good. So there's a lot of great things. We're going to have animated text scrolling messages. Driver responsive messaging. We're going to be able to put these into traffic data collection mode. We're going to be able to, they have solar panels so that we can charge them up and not have to, unlike the speed carts that have to keep going back to the office. They'll have Bluetooth communication, weatherproof weatherproof and vandal resistant enclosures, and they can also go in the stealth mode so they don't have to flash and strobe probe and do all of these things. We can certainly just collect data with them if that's what we need to do. So, so we're very excited about that. It's a new tool in the toolbox that we've not had, and we're looking at receiving training on or about August 1st once the other signs arrive. So, without a lot of detail, another project that our IT director Nick Cave was able to accomplish. If you guys remember, back around budget time, we talked about a drone for public safety purposes in Bennington. We removed the drone just based on the amount of money that we were requesting. Chief Ferris from the fire department, who's here for other reasons tonight, Lieutenant Grandy, Nick Cave, Shannon, Dan Monks, the town manager, all had a hand in reviewing the grant application, and I'm pleased to report that that the state of Vermont has made the award, and we will be ordering that drone to the tune of I can't say $35,000 because it's $34,999. So we're very pleased about that, and there's a lot of different things that we can use that for, and we're excited about it. So. All right, so I know that people are going to have lots of questions for me and my decisions, so let me just go through a couple things here. I want to share with you that this Saturday down at Walmart, we're having a COPS event. Not cops on TV, nothing crazy, right? COPS, C-O-P-S-S. The reason for the COPS event, it's COPS, OPS, POPS, school supplies, okay? So that COPS event, we're going to take our special operations van down to Walmart, and we're going to open up the doors, and Walmart has agreed to, as we all know, Walmart, Staples, because I don't want to just plug Walmart, they have reduced price school supplies this time of year, okay? And so they've agreed to set up a couple of tables in the front of the store. And what they're going to do is you're going to be able to go in, you're going to be able to purchase certain school supplies. We want to be able to fill 300 backpacks. That's about the number that we hand out at Bennington Night Out, which is on August 4th from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock up at Willow Park. So again, this weekend, the COPS event is going to start at 10 and go until 3, or until we have all of the supplies that we need, but it won't go later than 3. We're also going to have our Copsicle trailer there, ice cream sandwiches, and Freedom Pops we'll have down there. And so Walmart's a big sponsor for us for this. And I think it's important, we talk about wanting to give back to the community. One person already stepped up and said, I'll buy all the safety scissors for the backpacks. So, when you stop and you think about that, that's awesome. And again, the Walmart employees will be on the inside. You buy your supplies, you bring them out to us. And if you don't buy us any school supplies, you can still have a popsicle or an ice cream sandwich. I don't care. But we're going to try to load that operations van and make things successful for Bennington Night Out with our backpack giveaway. So we're actually kind of excited. We've never done it before, and I think it's going to be great. The other thing I want to mention while I'm here tonight, and people at home are watching, the banner left already, but that's okay. The banner is also, let me back up. The banner is also very involved in our COPS project because they're doing the advertising for us. Susan Plaisance has been pretty amazing at making that happen for us. And you should have, tomorrow you'll start seeing it in print, and it's already up on the website. So on September 11th, I've been working with Clark, not as a select board member, but as a resident of Bennington. On the 25th anniversary of 9/11, we're planning an event at the Vermont Veterans Home, which probably will be huge. And it's going to involve a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of things crammed into less than an hour. We don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but there's going to be some very interesting things that happen that day. The Vermont Army Guard is involved. The Vermont Veterans Home is extremely excited to have us there, and I just hope that everybody from Bennington that has the time can show up, and we can honor our military folks, we can honor our first responders, and we can honor all of the people that lost their lives on 9/11 and beyond, because really that's what it's about. So I'm sure Clark will get up at some point as we get closer to the 9/11 events and talk to you about that. We have created a special challenge coin. It's a limited production. There's only going to be 400 made, and until the coin gets here, because I need to make sure it comes out right, we worked hard on creating a design that was about Bennington and about Bennington supporting folks that lost their lives on 9/11. So, yeah. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Clark, you had a question about flashlights.
How many flashlights?
Well, I wanted to show you. I mean, what did you say the cost was?
The total cost is like $2,300.
Yeah, look at that, 15 flashlights for $2,300. Just kidding, just kidding. This is Lieutenant Grandy's personal flashlight, and we thought we would mess with you a little bit. Not too much, though, because, but this one is pretty cool. Look at that, it recharges and everything, a little, But no, we bought 15 Stinger 2020 flashlights out of last year's budget. They have three modes of light source, and the officers have asked for those, and then however many officers we have out of this fiscal year, we'll buy the additional lights that we need to make sure everybody gets one. So it works out, Clark, to be approximately, with shipping, about $155, which is pretty good. We bought them at AAA. We put them out. I mean, they come with 2 charging sources. We actually got quotes before we bought them, but yeah, it was about $2,000 to get 15 flashlights. That is correct. Yeah, 3 different light modes, low, medium, and high. They're easily held in your hand. They don't have a slippery surface. They're just a huge improvement as compared to what the officers have now. Are they aluminum? Oh. No, it wasn't for you. It's this little bug is driving me crazy, and I'm trying to yeah, it's an aluminum housing. Yeah, you got me. I'm not sure. I mean, again, with the 3 different, I'm not sure. We had one for test and evaluation, direct from Streamlight, and it was pretty impressive. Obviously, the brighter it is, the less time the battery lasts. But we had it up on the firing range. Our nighttime firing time back at the end of February, and it was very impressive. And you can scan a field, and we have to remember too that flashlights aren't just used by nighttime officers. We use them to clear basements and crawl spaces and things like that. So I thought it was a worthy expense.
no hierarchy, no unpredictability?
No, oh, no, sir. I'll show you. Next time we have a meeting at the VFW, I'll bring mine in out of the car, and I'll show you. They're impressive.
How do you think working in helicopters and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we do with the helicopters at night here in Bennington, they more or less look for reflective material. They want you to have the traffic cones. I mean, we landed a helicopter on the 4th of July in front of the high school, or on the front lawn of the high school, and they look for the reflective traffic cones to be on their sides. So, yeah, yep. Nancy.
Nancy, go ahead.
When it comes to the signs that we're purchasing that show people how fast they're going, I'd like the board to be able to look at the signs. In the past couple of weeks, I've gone out of towns where I've seen a lot of signs. Maybe 25% of the signs showed me how fast they were going. Some were only partially working, some weren't turned on at all. A lot of them were displaying words rather than speed limit signs. And I think the whole purpose is so you can go by and see how fast you're going. I don't know if anybody's ever looked at the warranties, the cost, the features, the size. Some of these had so many lights on them, it looked like you were looking at a disco. You couldn't even read what was on there. So has everybody gotten together and looked at the different types of signs that were out there?
We actually did. We looked at several different vendors. We started this project back when Mr. Hurd was the town manager, because we worked with RJ as well, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't get signs that were too awful big, that they didn't look great in a neighborhood, but at the same time, I know that there are some communities that you drive through at Christmas time. I know what you're talking about, and if you're going too fast, it doesn't tell you to slow down. It says, bah humbug. A little tacky. I don't like it, and we won't be doing that here. But getting people to slow down, that's part of our traffic calming, and that's we're going to experiment and do different things with them, and we're actually kind of excited. I mean, it does have a full matrix display of LED lights. You can put up messaging. For example, if we, for example, the Bennington Battle Day Parade, we can put messaging up on these signs, giving people direction along a particular route, and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, they're dual color. I think that you'll be impressed. I don't think that they're gaudy at all, because I would not want that. I mean, the background is high-vis yellow. We chose that color for a reason, and I think, again, I think that you'll all be impressed with the work, because we didn't just go and say, okay, we want this. There were so many options. We actually met with the representative from Traffic Logics, and we wanted to go with somebody, Nancy, that was somewhat local. Our rep lives over in the Albany area, and instead of getting the line of, hey, you can go on YouTube and watch the videos, he's going to come over and show us all the functionality of these signs. So it's kind of win-win for us. And again, I think I mentioned it. We actually we went with a solar panel so that we can get power, and we went with the anti-vandal box because our brand new speed cart got vandalized on the backside of the hospital last year, and we had to get all the paint off of it. So.
And have we purchased any for the streets of Bennington?
So Nancy, the answer is yes to that. Definitively, 2 of those signs will be installed on Monument Avenue per the direction of the Select Board and the traffic calming.
Oh, so
Yep.
we have signs separately, though?
Those are, it is part of that purchase.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
And to determine where they're going to go, are they going to use the list that you provided a year and a half ago?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for. The other question, when you were here last year, I commented on the excellent report the police department had in last year's town report, had a lot of details, and I said it's a shame people don't read the town report like they used to, because I think it would have benefited everybody to read it. And I was disappointed a couple of months ago. It wasn't in this year's town report. So I was wondering, how long do you think it would take the department to put that report together so we could get it on the town website?
I guess I'm not.
It showed, I could read through every different type of call the department went on, how many of each call, and I think I could compare it to last year. You could see what calls had increased, what calls had decreased, and I said I thought it would benefit the police department and the public, so people in Bennington could really get a good idea of the types and the numbers of the calls you were going on.
Yeah, this year we went to a more of a narrative type report to get things to fit. You know, and I mean, we can certainly, you know, we can certainly create like a graph or a chart to show, you know, increases or decreases in the different types of crimes that we're responding to, if you think that would be helpful. I'm all about color and charts and graphs. I don't believe that we have that option. It's pretty black and white in there, but I don't know. You know, let me work on that.
I just wanted to make sure no group or organization had asked the department not to put that type of detailed information out, because like I thought it was excellent.
Well, I appreciate that, but we kind of went back to the narrative type report, but I mean, we can pick out some of the things that we respond to. I mean, domestic violence is huge, as you know, in Bennington, and yeah, I mean, I'll work with Cam, and we'll try to figure that out and go back and try it. And if nothing else, you know, maybe, let's see, we're in July. You know, maybe towards the end of the year, if we're not going to put it in the town report, maybe we could make something and put it up here so people can see it. What do you think?
Okay, thanks.
Chief, during public comment, we heard from several members of the community regarding the local emergency management plan, its implementation this past heat wave. I held off on any kind of response for that because you're the guy, along with the rest of the team, obviously. But if you could switch your hat for just a moment for us, and do you want to address any of the topics they brought up?
Yeah, I mean, I will. First, I'll start out by saying that I worked with Martha and Wendy, and I didn't get any phone calls from them. I'm disappointed that I felt like I'm blindsided here, but you know, I attended all the meetings, and I'm not going to go down the path of destruction here. I think that we have a very good local emergency management plan in place, and you know, the temperatures here in Vermont each year seem to creep up, and I stood before all of you when I presented the emergency management plan and said that people in Bennington need to be prepared. And I just want to say that it's disappointing that I'm sitting in the back of the room and I'm hearing all of this, And when they, there were other things that went on behind the scenes. And when I say that, I mean, I took the time as the emergency management director to go to some of our big box stores, visit with managers to make sure that pallets of water were available so that if people needed water, that was going to be available. One of our big box stores moved their air conditioners and fans to the garden center. Another big box store moved several pallets of air conditioners to the front of the store so people didn't have to load them and carry them very far. I felt like we were on top of it. I felt confident with that. I did work with Jonah to make sure that people were notified that the weather was going to get a little bit warm. I called the Shasbury State Park, Woodford State Park. I checked in. I made sure that Lake Perrin was going to be available. We did check our resources. I worked with Nathan to make sure that the ladder truck was going to be available. The comment about me reaching out to Dan Cornell and amping up the splash pad, that is true. We turned up the pressure there. We did not have what Martha said about the easy ups. We did not have the easy ups. They were damaged last year. We didn't replace them. We put those easy ups up last year, and a storm blew through after hours, and the easy ups got damaged, and we just did not, we didn't replace them. So, but there was a lot that went on behind the scenes. One of our major contributors to offering a cooling location was having a fundraising event on the particular Wednesday, midweek there, and I was not going to ask them to open up because they were having a fundraising event, and they were allowing people to come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and and the fundraising event was $10 a plate to get in, and it just would have been awkward. So I think we have to be careful on crying wolf. We heard from another person who said that they didn't think they were going to be doing it too much anymore. Because people don't show up, and it's the same. We experienced that last year with the Elks Lodge, with BPI, with the library. I mean, there's a lot of locations where people can go. The movie theater, I drove by the movie theater on 2 of the days that were warm, and there were quite a few vehicles there where people were using the movie theater. I'm sure that they were watching movies, but that they were using the movie theater as a place to get cooled down. And I don't know, I kind of thought that we did a pretty good job, and whether or not somebody's on vacation or whatever, I did not go on vacation, contrary to popular belief, and in fact I ended up turning in my personal time that I didn't utilize because I wanted to be around in the event something went awry, because we did have a problem at the splash pad on Juneteenth. Because there was a power outage. So, I felt like when people were talking, I feel like, I gave up earned time that I had with the town of Bennington so that I could be around for this community, and to hear this tonight, I'm disappointed, but I don't know, I've been disappointed before, and I'm not turning this on anybody else. It is ultimately my responsibility. I think Jonah got information out. He might not have gotten it all out, but we got the information out that we felt that people needed. I did check in with the emergency department. They were not seeing an overage of heat-related emergencies. I agree with what Wendy had to say. Sometimes we forget about our elderly, but we also forget about our little four-legged friends too, and I've harped on that before. So, you know, we did not have an increase in complaints about people leaving their pets in their cars. So, you know, and listen, that we're just in the start of the summer. We have a long way to go. I did check with Nathan, and I don't expect him to get up here and go to bat for me. I'm a big boy. But, you know, we made sure that we had water here at the firehouse in the event that someone needed it. I called in multiple times to make sure that no one was calling the police department looking for shelter. You know, I mean, we have limited access to shelter through 211. To call out a bunch of people and try to set up a shelter at Mount Anthony Union Middle School when the weather was going to break, I made the decision that I didn't think that was appropriate. So if I was wrong, then I accept that responsibility. But, you know, it's not like the winter time when we had all kinds of funding available for that. To take the $10,000 that we have for emergency management and hire somebody to do that job, you know, if that's what you all see fit to do, have at it. I'm not gonna stand here in front of you and keep trying to defend myself. I thought I made the proper decisions based on the weather. The weather broke. We didn't have any deaths or any real illness in this community. There are swimming holes that people can go to. There are people in this room that go to those swimming holes. There are people that go to the different lakes and enjoy themselves. You know, you have to make do with what we have available. And you have to be prepared at home. And I stress that. You all listen to me on that. You know, I mean, we just had a storm roll through Bennington. Chief Barris, Lieutenant Grandy, the police department, 3 fire departments, Green Mountain Power, were all out working. We went door to door and checking on people. Public Works was out in full force and, you know, helping cut up trees and things like that. That's really what the emergency management plan is all about, is, you know, we have the call-out list, we make things happen, and power was restored in a particular section of Bennington in about 15 hours. And, you know, that's really what we're about. And people didn't want to leave their homes. We had a woman that was very pregnant, Cam, is that how we're going to say it? Was very pregnant, who didn't want to leave her home. She wanted to stay at home, and, you know, again, that's what we do. That's when we come out, when bad things happen, and we can see that happening. Bennington Rescue plays a crucial role in all of this, and you know, I'm proud of the people that I work with and the colleagues that I have. So again, you know, if I made a mistake, I'm sure the town manager will let me know. And I accept full responsibility for that. But there is plenty of places that you can go. There was plenty of air conditioners, fans, cases of water, pallets of water. I'll take it one step further, because as I think about this, Public Works, Mr. Jolly's not here. We were supposed to take delivery of 2 pallets of water from a local big box store. And I spoke to him and I said, hey, let's just take the 1 pallet because we might need that. And, you know, so again, I'm happy to look at the emergency management plan, the heat annex, and make adjustments or whatever we see necessary or see fit. But I just, you know, self-preparedness is key here.
Anything else from the board? I'll go with Jackie, then Clark.
Good evening, Chief. Thank you for being here. So at some point, I'm gonna take a fail on my EDC check tonight, but I have a flashlight that I very much like, and I won't take up that time tonight. On the subject that we were just hearing about, the response to the heat annex and stuff, I do want to thank you for the efforts that you've made and for being part of that process. I think it's good and important that we have a plan and we try to be there for our neighbors. I think one of the things that I've learned sitting on this board is that the need seems to always outpace our capacity, right? So finding that place where that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to do more, but thank you for what you have done. What I wanted to ask about was this past couple days, I was walking around past the skate park and looking at the work on the bridge. It looks fantastic, really excited about that. And I think we've talked about this a couple times. Maybe the last time you were here, I know the board's discussed it a couple times in the interim. I saw one individual at the skate park on an e-bike hitting the jumps and the ramps and stuff. And for me, like, it seems scary to do that on a regular bicycle, but it seems especially challenging on an e-bike. I know we have a sign that says that that's not allowed, but I keep hearing about that at the skate park and also on our trails and stuff. So I know that that's like an additional ask while you're sort of down staff, but I'd love to hear any thoughts you have about how to address that.
Sure. So Mr. Monks brought that to our attention here recently. We are proud to say that we just had four officers complete bike training, and I've talked about this before and usually gotten chuckles out of people. It takes a week to teach a police officer how to ride a bike, and yeah, it's a little weird, but they get their proper training, and you'll see them out and about. They're wearing their bright yellow shirts. You really can't miss them, and our thought process is that we don't want to go down there and be authoritarians, but we would like to go down to the skate park and spend some time there and just explain why they shouldn't be doing that. And I think that's how I would like to approach it. There's different variations, Jackie, of e-bikes out there. Some of them look like they have like a little throttle. The e-bikes that we have are just pedal assist. And we've actually been up to Willow Park and have ridden on the BMX track with the kids. Never seem to win. But the bottom line is that if we can go up to Willow Park and ride up there, that might be the suggestion. Is if kids want to ride at the skate park, there's a little bit of a difference between riding up at Willow Park versus riding when people are trying to rollerblade and use their skateboards and things like that. So, point well taken, and we'll add that to the list. And the trail system, I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it. People get going at, and I'm going to estimate 30 plus miles an hour, on that trail system, and it really is too fast. I mean, a great place to observe it is, behind the burger restaurant, down across from the state office complex. I always called it Tasty Freeze when I was younger, but I understand it has a different name now, the Freeze, I believe. I mean, you watch down there, and people are just kind of, whipping right along. So, and those are the e-bikes that, I mean, we're not going to catch unless we have an officer on one end or the other. But we can certainly put that out to our bike patrol officers and have them spend some time at the park, and they're already spending time. In fact, Sergeant Dyatt is out tonight. He asked earlier, he asked Lieutenant Grandy, if I just happened to be there, if he could get out on the bike tonight, because he was working, his corporal was working, and 2 other officers were working. So he was going to get out there and see what he could do. So point well taken. Thank you.
And thank you for the information about the sensors on Northside Drive.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It is deceiving. I don't want to get back on that too deeply because there's other matters that need to come before you, but it is kind of deceiving when you look at that. I mean, it does look like, we're trying to collect data, but then if you sit there long enough and you go down Northside Drive like I did today, I mean, they're clearly sensors. So, perfect.
Clark.
Again, Bogart, a couple of things. You mentioned the signs you have the ability to select data. And I'm wondering if that's something that you use in concert with some of the neighborhood requests for traffic calming to validate information people are normally flying on this road like that, of course they don't have numbers. But can those devices be just a way to support, substantiate people's documentation of sending us to the town for traffic calming activities?
To keep in line with my great brevity this evening, absolutely. One-word answer.
And from the data realm, I know you and I communicated about this to somebody who's about the clock cameras, but I've seen an article maybe last month discussing Vermont does not allow lock cameras per se, but those communities that are adjacent states that do allow it, they are exchanging lock camera information on investigation. Is that a we in that category, or is that something you want to talk about?
So when we're talking flock cameras, most people in Vermont know them as LPRs. And right now in Vermont, you just can't have it. As a local police department, so we're not using them, and we don't have any information that we're gaining. I believe that the only law enforcement agency in Vermont that is using LPR-style cameras is the Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles, and that's for commercial motor vehicle enforcement. So I believe the answer on that is no.
Well, I guess my question is, the article I read discussed in New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, some of the borders do use that. It's a spot camera, and there's an inquiry from Vermont Department of New York. We're concerned about this. Do you have any data that might support our investigation? That was a concern that other agencies were using out of state police agencies block information in the Vermont statute.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Clark. I'm going to have to. I don't know the answer to that.
All right. RPV, the drone. You have an officer that are going to be FAA to operate that?
Yes, sir. So Roger Williams University offers a program, and our IT director, Nick Cave, has been through the online program and is going to assist officers with the flying of that initially. And I know that Chief Barris is also interested in making sure that the fire department has the opportunity. More than likely, we will assist them, because if it's a big fire, we'll run that drone. But it's going to have all types of capabilities. And when we're ready, we'll probably bring it in and show all of you. And we'll get it set up so that you can see that it does belong to the town of Bennington.
And I'm very satisfied with your response to proactive leadership of the agency. I've heard from people around town, I want to tell about they don't do that, no one knows that they are that are derelict and that they're doing. I've not heard anyone in these town governments that they derelict and they do it. All folks.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? All right, audience, you're up. Martha.
It's unfortunate most of the people who were here to talk about and to support the questions about the local emergency management plan have left because we did not expect the emergency management director to speak in that capacity tonight. Paul, I am sorry for catching you off guard. However, we did speak with Shannon. Shannon said she was going to reach out to you. So our understanding was that you had been contacted about this. I'm really concerned that the select board doesn't have more questions about this. This is your plan. This is not just Paul's plan. He's the emergency management director that you all have chosen. And this is the plan that you approved. And these measures were not taken. So this responsibility does not just fall on Paul, it falls on all of you. And to make sure that there is not someone who is completely overworked trying to do this additional emergency response. And that's why, perhaps it would make sense to have somebody who is hired per diem, if there are emergency hours. Nancy, I see you shaking your head, but the reality is that this plan that we approved is not being done. And we have temperatures spiking again tomorrow, this week, sustained temperatures, and I would really like to know what is going to happen, as would all of those people who showed up tonight, who are concerned and who have been concerned for years about this. So I would really love to hear from all of you what your thoughts are on the fact that these things were not done. And I'm very concerned that you all haven't asked those questions. And we need to have a plan and a structure in place that when there's an emergency, things get done. And I would really love to hear from you about that and about what is going to happen this week to ensure that our residents are safe.
So I'd like to start. Thank you for that, Martha. I would like to start by telling you that I have been monitoring the weather forecast for this week, and Bennington County is not included in the heat annex situation for tomorrow, according to the National Weather Service out of Burlington. We did not light up on the map. I guess I should say it a little bit better. There's no indication on the map that we are going to hit the threshold for that. We are also not on the map for severe or significant thunderstorms and wind. We all know that weather forecasters get paid a lot of money. They're not always right, but I have to tell you that all of Bennington County is just not included in tomorrow. So I actually took a look at that prior to coming here tonight. Lieutenant Grandy and I talked about it. I was going to reach out to Jeff Vickers as well, but at this point, again, I'm not going to activate when we're not included in the National Weather Service report. So north of here and east of here, it looks like there's going to be some significant hot temperatures, and it's supposed to be a day to a day and a half, and then we're supposed to go back down. So, but you can be rest assured, we'll be monitoring that. And when Nathan came in tonight, I asked him specifically about water to make sure that we still had water, just like I did last week. And then, you know, folks, we have to consider too, you know, having the fire truck. You know, I asked Nathan or Chief Barris how many people actually came to the firehouse. You have to remember that we're running a ladder truck with wonderful volunteers. And, you know, one day they had like 14 people, the next day they had 15 people, and we're burning lots of diesel fuel at $5.50 a gallon. And I'm all about that. I reached out for it. I asked for it. Nathan, Chief Barris, made it happen. But it's not something that's sustainable all summer long to turn a $1.1 million piece of equipment into a sprinkler. And, you know, we're running the splash pad. That's not too far from here. There's lots of air conditioners left at our big box stores, although the supply did get reduced, you know, over the last 2 weeks or so. And so I think, I think those are things that we really have to think about. I did make notes when Martha was speaking earlier. I'm sure that somebody has a piece of paper back there that I can look at. But like I said, I thought that we were pretty good in most of the things that we did to have this community prepared. You know, for that weather, and I don't expect you to listen. Like I told you, I'm a big boy. I can take the criticism. I just want to make sure that when something big does hit, like it does in the southern part of the country, that we're not asking people to help us, and they say no because we've asked too many times, and nothing happens. So, but. We'll keep an eye on the weather this week.
And I will note that our communications coordinator did send out a notice that we are not included in the heat advisory, but that we are all watching it in case the weather forecast changes.
Yeah. Jonah and I communicated about that around 5-ish maybe today.
So we did proactively address it, even though the threshold does not look like it's going to be met.
I think it's important to remember, too, that a lot of our potential cooling places are voluntary, and they are extending their time and their services. And as the representative from the UU pointed out, that people aren't utilizing the services when they become available. So they go in, they get it all set up, nobody comes. Then the next time they're not as willing to participate because they did expend resources on that. And that's something we need to work on. I think what we're identifying here is actually a communication issue too, that people aren't aware of how to reach these things, and that is something I think that I made a note here that we need to work on most directly. As far as, the canopies at the splash pad, I'm sure we can come up with some pop-up somewhere. But other than that, I mean, I think this really is a newer time, that one of the first times that this annex actually kicked into play, and I see a lot of positives that happened. I definitely see some negatives that happened, but there are some things. I mean, I see on your list here the interactive online map. I don't know who runs. Is that a state thing? I found it fairly useless. I went and looked at it. I 100% agree on that. And as for what sites are open, I think that's a way we need to communicate a little better to the community. And we're going to need some community help, I think, in order to actually accomplish that goal. Wendy?
I want to thank you for what you've done for the town, but we're leaving out people that are held up at home. Our elders and people with disabilities are not going to run down to the splash pad. It's not going to be possible. And they're not going to go hang out at the lake. And many people that live in this town do not have cars, do not have transportation. And so I believe that we need to do better by these groups of people and in the future.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
I seem to recall there are a lot of groups and organizations that are funded that had lists of a lot of their clients. And I would think they would already have something set up with the clients if it's going to be hot or whatever. I remember seniors telling me a couple of years ago that live in some type of government-funded housing that they're charged an extra $40 a month if they want an air conditioner. Well, we can't do anything about that. Maybe some of this government housing should help them get air conditioners or fans. So, and when people say, there are some who need to take a little accountability and be able to go to the town website. But I think we have a lot of people in between who are working with different citizens in Bennington as their clients or patients that should be saying, okay, this is what you can look for, or this is what you can do. But I hope nobody's planning on Bennington being able to go around and pick people up at their homes unless it's a real emergency. I guess I'm not sure.
So
I can see if the power was to go out. And that should be something, again, most agencies have the list of their patients who may need the power for respiratory, other issues like that.
So there was something batted around where we could work something out with the Green Mountain bus to provide maybe rides to things like the movie theater, and then also provide tickets for people to, do you remember that, Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
That we could give them a ticket to go to the movie theater on a very hot day when it's, and so those are some of the ways that we can help out. I'm not expecting there to be, like, you pick up all the people that are stuck at home. But
I don't think Green Mountain would have, I don't think they have the funding to do that.
It's just something that may be worth looking into, especially with the amount, I mean, look around. A lot of our people that live here are on the elderly side. And so you often see a lot of people walking. Maybe they would like to ride to Shasberry Lake or the movie theater.
But I think Green Mountain is on a very limited budget. They do the best they can. They can't run 24/7. I don't think they run on Sundays. And so I don't think they would have the financial capacity to do this. I mean, a lot of this comes down to money. That's the problem.
Right, but if there was an audience.
I'm sorry, if there was what?
So if there was a big outcry for it from the community to do this.
But the question is, where would the money come from?
And so that's where the research would come in to see if that's even available.
I mean, if you look at the size of our state budget, for a state of, I don't know, 600,000 people, it's ridiculously high. I mean, people shouldn't be going without in Vermont, so people really have to start looking, where is that money going?
And this would also be in the wintertime, because we have people that are stuck and can't get places, warming shelters. I mean, we say that we set up all these places for people to go to, right? And you say no one shows up. Well, how are they getting there? And a lot of the biggest problems is not that people wouldn't show up, is that they don't have a way to get there. And I know that we're not going to solve that problem tonight or maybe even down the road, but it's just something to think about.
Well, before we had Green Mountain Bus, a lot of us worked out things with their neighbors, friends, and families who had no cars.
And that used to be the case.
And that's something that, you know, maybe that's something that people need to start doing again. I think a lot of people have gotten too dependent on services, you know. Most people know somebody. If somebody gives somebody a hand, if you're really stuck, they'll give you a ride someplace. And maybe that's something we need to focus on, how Vermont used to work so well 40 and 50 years ago before we had all the programs.
A neighbor-to-neighbor program where we go in and help people.
That's it. The Bennington Rescue Squad. Do you all remember? Neighbors helping neighbors. That was like their slogan or their mantra.
And we've gotten out of that practice. But if we put a spotlight on it, and we, as a select board, you could put another spotlight on that, and showcase it and say, well, this is how it used to be. People used to help their neighbors. You know, if you saw that your neighbor didn't have milk, you went and bought him milk. Or if you saw they needed to go to the doctors and they didn't have a ride, you gave it to them.
But that's why I'd really like to focus on town rather than county and region, because that's how it used to work in Vermont. You knew who needed help in the town, and that's who everybody kind of kept an eye on, and that's who you kind of made sure if there was extra, you made sure you helped them out. And as we go farther into the county and the region, New York and the Berkshires, you're not going to have that impact of taking care of Vermonters the way we used to when every town and village really took care of their own. And it wasn't that long ago, so maybe trying to bring the focus smaller, more locally. Thank you.
I think.
Go ahead, Jackie, then I'm going to go to Sam. Is that Sam again?
Yes, it's me.
1 second, Sam.
Okay. I think when I look at this emergency management plan, especially the annexes, the heat annex and the cooling annex, the process that went into developing them, the list of different agencies and groups in town that are in there, it is that neighbors helping neighbors blueprint, right? It is what it's supposed, but I can also understand where it's very frustrating when those sites can't be available, when the neighbors helping neighbors falls flat and members of the public come here looking for someone to point a finger at rather than finding an extra hand to raise in the air and say, I'll be part of the solution. So I think we do have neighbors helping neighbors here. And unfortunately, it's just not always a perfect system.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, we have to get back into the Irene mode. Remember what happened with Irene, how Bennington pulled together? People came out of the woodwork doing what they could. There's a website on the Facebook page, if you're not aware of it, Helping Hands. I see that, I read it every day. I have a town page myself, Bennington Town Community Info, that I try to get the message out and information, and it is up to communications. And I know people don't have Facebook, and I know people don't have internet, but you got to get the word out. And the agencies that do have critical care people that rely on oxygen and rely on insulin, they got to compile a list too to say, hey, I got a guy or a lady that's in desperate need that I need help with transportation to get them into a cooling center as well. Not to change the subject, Chief Doucette, July 4th, your department and Vermont State Police did an excellent job. Nobody was prepared for that gunfire, which was self-inflicted to a leg. You had to get a chopper in. You couldn't get a chopper into a landing zone. You had to choose another landing zone, and thank God the landing zone was over at the high school. Anyway, that in future endeavors with July 4th, that we can open up the Welcome Center, so in the event that something does come and happen, that we do have that landing zone at the Welcome Center. Thank you.
I'll just touch on that very quickly. So that, again, was a decision that I made to put the helicopter down at 301 Park Street on the front lawn, Sam, because of the fireworks. The Welcome Center was really packed with people, and I did not want the helicopter pilot to abort when they saw the vehicles there. So we went just a little bit further to the east, and they were very happy with that landing zone. So, you know, we do have different landing zones that we can go to. We have used the football field. We've used the front lawn at the high school. We have used the Welcome Center. That's really our go-to location, and of course right in the middle of Route 7 or 279 when we need it. So we do have a lot of options, and that night we ended up using the high school option.
Well, thank you for that quick decision, because nobody can be trained for that. And I thank your department and the Vermont State Police for enacting, shutting down traffic. I heard the transmissions, and to allow a helicopter to fly in unnoticed, and they were able to fly in that type of weather, and then continue out with the duty of landing at the hospital. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks to everybody. I just wanted to comment briefly on this issue with the heat annex of the local emergency management plan. Recognizing it's a new system and a new process, and that a lot of good information's put together. I really appreciate what you put together, Martha. I think it's a useful way for all of us to debrief and see, take a high-level overview of what worked and what we could make better. I agree with Tom that I think a lot of it's communications, and if you look at it and consider it, the resources are there. We just have to get people pointed at the resources. So I think it's a good starting place. I mean, I recognize that when a heat event happens, it's an emergency right away, and you may not have a long time to learn, but I think, we're starting this, and we do need to learn from it. So I think that just kind of a debrief like this, and then for all of us to review and see what happened well and what didn't happen well is very instructive, and I'm certainly going to take a closer look and talk with folks at the town about how we might be able to improve things. At the same time, I have to make special note of the fact that I just found myself agreeing with much of what Nancy said, which doesn't seem to usually happen. But Nancy, I think her remarks were right on point about helping our neighbors, because a lot of this stuff does require, people going to the store and getting something for somebody that has mobility issues, or getting them somewhere, and there isn't really any mechanism for that other than us helping each other out, except in extreme emergencies. So I really appreciate that, and that's maybe something that we need to think about communicating more too, about how do we stay aware and remain aware of what our friends and neighbors might need at any point in time. So again, thanks Martha and Wendy and everybody who came out tonight for bringing this issue up and kind of making us take a close look at it. Thanks to the chief and everybody at the town who did what they did and what they could, and recognize that we've got some things to learn. So thank you.
All right, I'll take one more. Martha, go ahead.
I just want to make it really clear. This is not about community members not being willing to step up. As you can see here, we've identified 23 possible cooling places and centers that were not listed by the town. When we went through this, we spent about a year working on this annex with the police chief, with Tom Haley, with Jeannie Jenkins, with many people in this town. This is not mine. I am unfortunately the one representing many people right now. The reality is that we reached out to those partners, and they said, yes, we are interested in helping and participating. We are interested in helping our neighbors. The town basically said, we can't do anything, almost, except for distribute information and coordinate with people who are willing to step up. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, that did not happen. One of the places that was supposed to be listed was the Gamers Grotto. I checked in, and they weren't reached out to, and they weren't listed. The community market opened up. That was not shared. Like, this is very basic stuff, and I understand that we're a small town and we are strained. But this is important, and is something community members and town officials poured time into, and that needs to be respected. And we need to be prepared for emergencies when they come to our town. And this is only going to continue to get worse with climate change. And so, yes, this is our first time. So let's learn from it. I would also say, in regards to funding, and this goes back to the police hat, we have money for $2,400 for flashlights. We have money, thousands of dollars for a drone for public safety issues. This is a public safety issue. Why do we not have money to go to public safety issues that are putting our vulnerable at risk? I know this has taken up a lot of time. I appreciate all of your attention and your consideration of this. And I just want to say again, this is not my issue. This is not just my concern. This is many, many people in this town. Thank you.
Tom, I just want to clarify what I heard. Chief was quite clear, correct me if I'm misstating, that you were monitoring the situation and the criteria to activate this annex was not present. Did I hear you say that correctly?
We hit 95 degrees, right? And then I didn't want to activate at a particular, what I said was I didn't want to activate a particular cooling location that is very big, very large, because they had a fundraising event. We also watched the weather. We knew that it was going to break, so we did not activate a shelter. So, you know, we were monitoring, we were making sure, I mean, I understand where Martha's coming from. I'm not sure who the many people are, but, you know, I honestly don't have time to call. These people are on our list of locations that people can go. The annex has been posted, you know, and I don't know what the answer is as far as calling everybody and saying, hey, are you able to take this many people?
What I was getting at, Chief, and maybe I'm obscuring it, the indication to reach out to all of these potential cooling places, I'm interpreting that indication was not present at that time.
Right. We went to a certain level, and it's debatable whether we should have gone to the next level, and I accept responsibility for that. If you all feel we should have gone to that next level, I didn't feel like we needed to get to that next level.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying I trust your judgment and I respect your judgment. So I'm just trying to see here that through your judgment, you did not see an indication to contact these 27 potential cooling institutions to go open. Is that's what I'm hearing.
And as I said earlier, you know, I called the office. We didn't have a single person call the office, the police department anyway, and I checked with Nathan. No one called the fire department, because those are the two places that would, you know, get the calls generally. I did check in with the hospital, and there were just no requests. There were just no requests. So I don't know. When we had the event, when we had the Juneteenth event, you know, we did pre-planning for that. The UU was on the list as an emergency shelter because it always seems to rain and we have thunderstorms and things like that. So, you know, that's just an example, you know, and I didn't reach out to them because someone else that was planning the Juneteenth event had already reached out, but we were concerned earlier in the week prior to Juneteenth that there was going to be some significant thunderstorms. So I feel like you know, when I know that there's events, we do reach out, but I didn't think it rose to that level in this situation. So
thank you. That's all I need to hear is your judgment, and I respect your judgment, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. Tom, appreciate you.
Maybe I can sum up what I'm hearing, and that is we have a little bit of an expectation issue that we need to manage, and we have a communication issue. And I think that if this board is going to look at this, those are the first two things that we need to look at.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Monks.
Manager's report. A couple things tonight. Hopefully they're quick because I know we're well over time here. The first, I have two action items this evening. The first one is the Eagles. They have requested a license for outdoor seating on the North Street parking lot. David Conwell worked with them to come up with a a possible license to use a portion of that public parking lot on North Street. I think it's 3 spaces. David did put together a memorandum, and it also includes the Eagles' request, as well as a draft license, which we still need to tweak a little bit, and the policy for our sidewalk licenses. And it is David's and my recommendation that given the Eagles' request and the policies in place for sidewalk licenses, that you folks approve this license and authorize the town manager and David to complete that license and get that signed for the Eagles.
Dan, I know we talked about it briefly. Do they have an outside consumption permit from the liquor department?
They do.
They do.
And there are specific requirements that they'll have. There are specific requirements that they'll have to meet.
Okay.
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Jackie?
My only note was in looking at some of the photographs of the area, it looks like right in front of the doorway, the entrance to the Eagles is sort of like a handicapped access area, and so I just want to make sure that does not get blocked in any way.
Yeah, my understanding is that they're only going to use they refer to it as the left of the door, but as you come out the door to the left, so that would leave the handicap space free.
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing outdoor consumption, then they're probably going to put up some sort of...
Yeah, they've got to put up a barricade.
So as long as that barricade's not in that path.
Right. My understanding is that it would not be.
Okay, great.
Nancy?
I want to be clear, absolutely nothing against the Eagles. I'd make these comments regardless. Our local taxpayers have owned and paid for these public lots for generations, so that if people want to shop and go out to eat, they have a place to park when there's a big event, so people have a place to park. And I'm opposed to removing any public parking. As I've been warning people for 5 or 6 years, we no longer have zoning bylaws for parking in the downtown. If all this development starts, you're going to be lucky to find a space anywhere. And some want to be able to find property owners if their first floor isn't rented. Well, if I was going to rent downtown, the first thing I'm looking for, how close do I have convenient parking to my front door? Because if it's not there, I'm not going to rent, and you have very limited parking on North Street across from the clip shop. Some of those businesses have no parking at all. There's a few spaces on the road, and then you turn into that parking lot right next to the Eagles. So I don't see how we can afford to give up any parking, public parking in Bennington.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I don't know how much of it is based on observational data, but I think that there's usually capacity in that parking lot, right? I mean, have you guys looked at that at all? I don't see that. In fact, the spaces that are shown there, I don't even think they ever registered me as even being part of the public parking space because they're right next to that building. But to Nancy's concern, is this an area where we typically see, parking shortages?
Typically, when I visit that part of town, I end up parking on North Street, so I've never actually parked in that lot, I don't think. It is the lot that's shared with the distillery, but it tends to be free at that end, I believe. I don't have any data or studies to show, but I saw nothing to indicate when negotiating this with the Eagles that they would be taking parking from anybody except the people who like to park next to the door of the Eagles, which should be their own members. Theoretically, those people have to park somewhere else, but I don't think the load in the parking lot will be a problem. And if it is, this is only one season's arrangement, so the city could simply, or the town could simply choose to not renew it next season. And they are compensating the town with $300 for the loss of those parking spaces.
Yeah, it is. I was going to echo David's comments. I mean, they're only asking for through the end of October. Obviously, if there was a huge outcry that these 3 parking spaces were missed in that parking lot, we just simply wouldn't renew it for next year.
Sam, I see your hand. Can you be quick? No? Okay. Anything else? All right, then, all in favor of their application, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? One opposed. Any abstention? Okay, motion is passed. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
I ask, did anybody contact the property owners in the area?
The item is off the floor, so I think we should move on.
Well, I don't understand why it wasn't on the agenda, but
It's part of the manager's report. I saw it.
well, it should have been on the agenda.
Dan, go ahead, please.
Shall I proceed?
Fire warden.
Okay. I see Chief Barris here this evening, and you heard from the Rural Fire Department earlier. I'm just going to reiterate quickly, with a recent adoption of Act 162, the way that fire wardens are designated in the state of Vermont has changed. In most municipalities, it's automatically the fire chief of the fire department that serves that municipality. We are somewhat unique, although I think there are a few other communities that have more than one fire department that serves the municipality. In our particular case, there's actually 3 within the actual town of Bennington. We have rural, village, and North Bennington. So the select board then has to choose one chief to be the fire warden for the municipality. In this particular case, the chief of police, the public safety director, and I recommend that the select board formally identify the Bennington Fire Chief, in this particular case, Chief Barris, as the town of Bennington fire warden. My understanding is, as Chief Barris is willing to accept this designation, and once this designation is made, the community won't have to do this every year. It's just automatically, unless and until the select board decides to name another department chief as the chief for the town, or the fire warden for the town, that just automatically the fire chief for the Bennington Village of Bennington Fire Department. Village Bennington Fire Department will automatically serve as a town fire warden. There was a memo attached that kind of went in great detail about how this works with the state, and so I do believe that it's appropriate to basically appoint the Bennington Fire Chief as the town of Bennington fire warden. That is the appropriate way forward.
You looking for a motion?
Yeah, there should be a motion to appoint the chief of the Bennington Village Fire Department as the town of Bennington fire warden.
I make that motion for the purpose of discussion.
And I'll second it.
So, I would just like to hear from Chief what this will involve, and I've been reading things where different entities around the state are concerned about an additional administrative burden and time consumption and so forth, since so many of our chiefs in this state are volunteers and have lives outside of their fire department duties. So
I don't have a life outside of my department duties.
As I said, others. I didn't include you.
Yeah, it's going to be a learning curve how we handle this going forward. Looking at the memos Dan mentioned, there's spots in there to designate some deputy wardens. This is potentially not a very busy position to have. We have great town staff, mainly checking on fire permits, looking for folks that aren't. It takes just a little bit out of that as opposed to calling a warden, to go and check out a campfire, as opposed to us all rushing out to go check on said campfire. Gives the opportunity to educate somebody with a burn that they're not entitled to. It's easy to get that permit right from the town, right? So just one extra step as opposed to rushing out a department in that district. It's a simple call. Again, these are things that we'll go over with Dan and kind of get in the town area and into the dispatchers, that it's a simple phone call. Obviously, if you can't get a hold of one of the two or whatever, then a response would be necessary. But this is also an educational event. You go out, you see what they have, advising them of what they can and can't burn. So it's something we do currently as departments in the town. Now it's just, as opposed to having somebody appointed by the state, it's now appointed by the town.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it's a better use of resources instead of rolling out a fire company. One guy goes out there and says what's going on?
Yeah, that's the consensus. Obviously, there's going to be a time where, which we see, throughout all the summer, we'll get an area where you get smoke in an area call, which then they call the fire department, right? Having the ability to not have to call another warden out to that said fire call to educate is going to be wonderful, and you don't have to wait for that. But there will be times, you'll see the trucks going by to go check out somebody burning something. It could just be a small campfire. We get a lot of the wet leaves, create a lot of smoke, right? So that's the most common. Usually cracking down or being rough with somebody who's just having a campfire it's not needed. They get it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Chief.
Jackie?
Yeah, thank you. So I did look at Act 162 a little bit. It does look like that establishes a new statewide definition of like a campfire that's kind of new. I know we have Article 8 that basically requires a permit for any burning. So I'll leave that for you all to discuss whether we should look at updating Article 8. The only other things that I wanted to just note in here that I noticed reading through were that, Act 162 looks like I'm disappointed actually that some of our local emergency management folks left. Act 162 requires all local emergency management planning activities to happen in coordination with the disability-led organization. So if we look at updating that or whatever, just calling out that requirement. And then I did see that there's also a new technical rescue grant program that has possibly some funding for fire departments, EMS agencies for equipment and training. So just to note that maybe we can check if we're eligible for any of that funding.
Anyone else? Nancy?
Question on somebody wanting to get a burn permit from North Bennington. Do I remember last year they have to come to the town office in Bennington to get the permit now?
Yep, that is correct. There are some new ordinances that North Bennington has put into play, I believe, early this year.
Does somebody at the counter give them a permit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. They can Monday through Friday, 7 to 4:30 or whatnot. They go in. It gets documented. I get a detailed list every day at about 4:30, flawlessly. And essentially, when you look at the list, it goes by street name alphabetically. You see the North Bennington permits are in there. There's going to be, a couple, like as I just mentioned, there's a couple of different ordinances they adopted recently that just have to be read and gone over to see exactly what they brought down as more harder rules of burning.
So there hasn't been an issue. I think somebody said North Bennington, the fire department used to do it, and they knew where somebody was going to be burning.
Can I interject a point of order here? We're really talking about appointing a fire warden, and I don't think we need to get involved in a discussion about everybody's fire ordinances. It's not what we're talking about. Jesus.
But as it stands, yes, they do have to come to Bennington to get their permit.
Yep. And again, it is all monitored. There's a lot of paperwork for it, so.
Okay, I'll talk to you separately so you can explain it, and then I can talk to the people that asked me about it.
Perfect. Any other discussion on the appointment? All right, then hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Here we are unanimous.
Thank you. And Chief, you'll just let us know when and if you appoint your deputies so we can make sure that everybody has
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we'll have a conversation. Again, just so the board understands my thought process. I've had a few weeks to take this in and try to grasp that. I'd like them to be spaced out. You know, I do live on one end of town. So if we have them closer to each and every other district, that would be the most ideal.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for
Thanks,
taking
guys.
on this extra responsibility.
Thank you, Chief.
Before you leave the manager's report, when you voted, did the board vote how many years this agreement for the parking spaces is for?
It expires at the end of October.
October of this year.
Oh, you aren't going to do it for a certain number, it's going to go year to year?
Well, we're going to do it through the end of October. That was their request, and we're going to honor their requests. And we're not, although our standard license would go longer, we're only going to go to the end of October.
So you're not going to use this one?
No, that's an initial draft, and I did speak to David to make sure that it matches their request.
And for clarification, it was in the packet, Shannon said the state came through with the grant for the pickleball court at Willow Park, but that was over a year ago. Do you know how much the cost will be now with the increase in labor and materials?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, I see that you got the grant approved for the pickleball courts at Willow Park, but you talked over a year ago. I would think the cost of labor and materials has gone up. Didn't you think it was around $300,000?
Yes, but the labor, most of the labor is going to be town staff. So most of that cost is in materials, et cetera. So hopefully it's not going to go up. We are going to meet with the highway department and the buildings grounds department to plan for it. You know, and I think the way that it will work is if the costs have gone up, you know, some of it might have to be scaled down a little bit so that we're not going to go over budget.
And are you including the cost of the highway department in the $300,000?
Yeah, that's actually the match to the grant. You have to do a 50-50 match.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one last question, I don't know, one of you can answer. On the document that the treasurer gave us ending May 31st, I'm seeing Ben High, $183,447.16 outgoing to the Ben High. I don't understand why I'm seeing money bouncing back and forth.
That's the line of credit, correct?
That's what?
Yeah, that's the line of credit that we discussed multiple times in the past.
But there was no line of credit talked about. It was a
loan that was set up as a line of credit. I mean,
But nobody said anything about a line of credit.
Nancy, we've discussed this multiple times. If you're unhappy with that, please discuss it with your board members. We voted for it. The terms were included in the loan that you voted for. We are complying with those terms. If you're unhappy with it, I cannot address that.
I understood it to be a line of credit.
Well, you can go back and watch the video. I just don't understand it going back and forth.
That's what a line of credit is.
That's what a line of credit is.
A loan is a line of credit?
Sometimes.
I'm not discussing this.
Well.
All right, upcoming agenda.
I had another question in the manager's report, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Again, one of Clark Adams' dead horses. I see we talk about grants. Shannon mentions a couple of grants, these certified local government grants, Vermont Community Foundation grants. I saw maybe 2 months ago there was a brief comment about we were waiting for reading from the state in terms of administrative or management fees for grants. Could someone give me the status of that inquiry?
Yep. And just to clarify before Shannon answers, is we haven't accepted any new grants since we discussed that, so we do recognize that before this board authorizes any new grants, that issue has to be resolved.
Right, I just saw grants, and I remember saying that.
No, I just wanted you to, we are fully aware of that. I know Shannon's aware of it, and
and I am getting more information. What we were talking about, Clark, was the Vermont Community Development Program in particular, like for the community development block grants. And so we are getting more information before we apply for another one of of those, but the other two that you mentioned, the Certified Local Government Grant, came through the Historic Preservation Commission, and then the Vermont Community Foundation grant for the Youth Council. Those were essentially in my role being a town staff member to the HPC, the Historic Preservation Commission, was something that I was asked to apply for. The same for the Vermont Community Foundation, and there is no compensation for us for that.
I understand that, since grant, I just wanted to update on where I'm at in terms of that information from the state government. I understand those are like internal to the town's operation, small and minor grants, where we service pass-through or conduits for the grant funds.
Right.
Give status on that process, what we're going to do, if we're going to do about it.
Yeah, and I'll share that information before we apply for another VCDP grant.
Now, upcoming agenda.
Yep.
I know we have vacant properties on the 4th, on the horizon. We have one more meeting of the subcommittee, I think, scheduled, and just information gathering. And then I expect us to get together and come up with a report.
Well, I have some items. Bennington Select Board Conflict of Interest Policy.
Mm-hmm. What of it? What about it?
We take up policies once a year.
Well, when I tried to bring it up when we were talking the town policy, I was told I couldn't talk about it.
I'm not interested in debating.
Well, you're not interested in much. I want the public to be able to read the policy that we all have to sign.
It's on the website.
Putnam Block Phase 2. Long overdue for a big, full, detailed presentation from Shannon and Bill Colvin right up there on the wall. 3, the Bennington County Fair Food Initiative with all the other groups that are tied to it. Where will the money come from now that the grants are gone? And 4, the Rescue Squad. I invited them in January. They said they'd come back in February to talk about a brand-new program. If the board doesn't bring them in, they can't talk about the new program.
I'm the new liaison. I'll be meeting with them Wednesday, their next meeting. If you let me know, Nancy, what questions you may have about that, I can relay that to Bill, please.
Clark, I brought this up, I think it was back in September. I read in their newsletter. They were starting a brand-new program that no one ever done in the state. And I said, well, let's bring them in to talk. And the rest of you said, no, we'll wait till the budget meeting in January. Okay. They weren't ready. I said, could you come back next month? Sure. This is for the people of Bennington to hear, Clark, to ask questions and get answers.
What I'm saying, Nancy, is I'm willing to bring that up to them and their board on Wednesday evening. I'll be in the room with the pertinent parties and ask them if they can come and present this to us. I personally don't remember your specific questions, but I'm telling you here now, I will present your questions to them if you just let me know what it is, and I will definitely...
No, we need a presentation for the people of Bennington.
I can't make, they're a private organization, we can't make them come here, but I have to be able to go to them and say, hey, could you answer this question for us, please?
If they're getting funded with a grant, who's going to pay when the grant money runs out?
Can we just...
What I will do, Nancy, is I've written down what you said. I will get with staff. If there are things that are of actual business of this board on those items, we'll work on getting them on the agenda at the appropriate times. Unfortunately, some of those things, we may not have business that's ready to come before the board.
Well, there's 4 people on this board who've lived in Bennington maybe 10 years. They don't understand. The Rescue Squad used to always be willing to come in and talk about new projects and programs, and I don't understand why the board doesn't want to give them that opportunity.
I think Bill knows that if he wants to come before this board, he's welcome before this board anymore at any time. He's made no request of that for me, and I see him quite frequently. I have a meeting with him actually Wednesday morning.
I'll go back and watch the videos from October and January to tell you exactly where I asked.
If Bill wants to come in, he can come in.
Okay. Well, let's remember who's been financially helping them for about 8 years.
We remember.
It wasn't the 6 people on this board. It's been our town taxpayers.
Dan, do you have anything on upcoming agenda?
Just that we'll have to formally set the general highway and fire tax rates, which I expect will be in line with the projections that we discussed at budget time.
Jim?
I didn't mention, I did get a request to reschedule from the Bike Hub. So they were going to come in a few months ago.
Okay.
And it didn't work out for whatever reason, so I said I'd bring that back.
I'll swing by there this week. All right, anyone else?
So I don't know if it's other business or upcoming agenda. I know I've had a conversation with the chief, and he was talking about he's already putting together his budget proposals for the upcoming year. And I'm just wondering if there's a time maybe I could meet with some of the department heads or even Tom and talk about, or Tom, to talk about, I keep hearing from people, we need to cut, we need to cut. So I would just like to see what's out there. What is a distinct possibility for reduced spending? But I kind of know the answer, but I want to see it. I want to be an honest broker with folks asking me about reductions. So I don't know how we do that under other business or agenda item, but
It's actually during budget season that you
well, I mean,
look at that
I understand
more
that, but I'm
closely.
saying I heard just in conversation with the chief, he was talking about how he's actually putting his budget together. So I would kind of like to be in the room or hear the process. You know, once they put it there, of course, then we'll be discussing it. But you know, I would like to be in the room when they're doing the cooking instead of the tasting.
I do have a comment about that, and I do believe that, you know, we have a process, and I don't know if it's appropriate for select board members to get involved directly with individual select board members to get directly involved with department heads regarding their building of their budget. Certainly, if you want the departments to come in and explain their expenses, et cetera, to the full board, I think that's appropriate. I do have a concern that, you know, one select board member might want to meet with the chief, another select board might want to meet with RJ, and then another select board wants to meet with the chief. I just don't think that's an effective way for us to do business, and I frankly don't think it's a way to manage. Certainly, if there are presentations or information that you want from department heads, I'm happy to request that and have them come in and give presentations to the board. But I do get nervous, and I don't think it's appropriate for one-on-one conversations about that to occur regularly.
That's why I was asking how to make this happen, you know, because again,
I'm happy to, Clark, if you want to come in and chat with me about how we build our budgets and those sorts of things, I'd be happy to talk about that. We start from zero every year. We don't just say, hey, we're at this point, add 10%. We look at every line item and say, okay, how much is that going to be this year? And it's never, I know a lot of government agencies just say, oh, we get a 10% increase this year, and they just put across the line 10%. We look at every single line item, and I know that our finance director grills every single department head on almost every single expenditure. So that's how we build our budget. And if anybody wants to, you know, make comments or suggest what services we can cut, you know, that's going to be ultimately up to you folks about what services you want to cut if you want to cut the budget.
Right. I understand that, you know, as I said, I won't say I'm barraged, but I'm steadily hearing about from the community, well, why can't we cut this? Why are we spending? And, you know, and I always invite people to come to our budget meetings. But, you know, I would like to get the word out to folks that we're constantly thinking of ways to save money, not spend money. The message I keep hearing from people is, you just want to spend our tax dollars. Well, I know that's not true.
I think if you look especially at the, probably one of our biggest expenditures, which is our infrastructure, our DPW department has done a remarkable job in reducing cost.
Absolutely.
And we can just look to the bridge program, and that's multi-million dollars we've already saved. And I know that RJ thinks of everything, and Larry, that they do is how they can save money and do things more efficiently. So, you know, if there's more ideas, we are happy to entertain those.
Well, that's the message I would like to send to our community, that I think our staff are good stewards of the tax dollars. And, you know, so many people, if they don't see it right here, it didn't happen. So I'm trying to be more transparent and communicate more to people that this doesn't happen in a void. So that's why I was asking about how we can somehow make that happen.
I think zero-based budgeting is a pretty key term that that I knew that we followed, but I just heard it out loud, and it's a good reminder. Zero-based budgeting means there's nothing on the line item until something becomes necessary. And that's a very responsible way to budget. We don't just budget flat year over year. We budget zero-based.
Yeah, every single line item needs to be justified, and it can't be, well, that's what we spent last year. That doesn't fly with us.
That's the message I would like to get out to the community, that in fact, we just don't reach up a number out of the sky and say, let's spend this. That, we build a budget for good reason. All right, I'll give back. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark.
All right. Other business. Ed.
Where you start?
I started with Ed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Nancy?
I need somebody to provide the ballot that shows this board actually got voter approval to start the skateboard park reserve fund. I looked at the last 4-year town meeting ballots. I don't see anything about the reserve fund, so somebody needs to provide that in order for that fund to exist.
That's not accurate, Nancy. Reserve funds can be set up by the select board, it can be set up by the voters, and it can be set up by staff, as long as it's reflected in the budget
Didn't I
annually.
just ask 2 meetings ago that somebody contact the League of Cities and Towns? I wanted to know if Vermont law requested voter approval for a select board to start a reserve fund. Didn't you say
Nancy,
yes?
there's an explicit statute that states that there does not need to be voter approval for reserves. If you want to contact the League of Cities and Towns,
Well, no, but didn't you tell me yes when I asked that question?
Yes, what?
That voter approval is needed for a select board to start a reserve fund.
That is not accurate. And if I did say that, I misspoke. I do not ever recall saying that, because I know there are at least 3 ways to create a reserve. It's voter. If the voters approve a reserve, there is no way of changing it. The select board cannot redirect those funds. If the select board approves a reserve, then the select board would have to vote to redirect those funds. If the management decides to create a reserve and it's reflected in the budget, then that would also be something that the select board would have to
So do you know
agree
who
with.
created this reserve fund?
To which reserve fund?
The Skateboard Park Reserve Fund. Do you know how it got created?
It got created by management and communicated to the select board.
Okay, I was on the board in 2024, so. And last, option tax extra information, Brattleboro, Manchester, and Rutland. I'd like to know where they spent every dollar in their options tax.
Go find out.
What is your issue? You vote at the last meeting, spend $2,000 to hold a meeting at the theater.
Go ask anybody you want the questions that you're asking.
So I'd like that information for the public. I'd also like to know how each town and Rutland, the city, goes about determining how they're going to spend their money each year. And last, I'd like the non-taxable parcel report posted on the town website, so that citizens can look at that just like they look at the grand list.
I have an issue with that, and it's not debatable tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Why would that be an issue? It's
You
public.
just heard me say it's not on the agenda, so it's not debatable
Okay,
tonight.
then let's put it on the
I have an
agenda.
issue with it.
It's public information.
Yeah, it is.
All right. I have a thing. July 25th at the Apple Barn will be their Blueberry Festival from 10 until 5. I was asked to convey that to the community, and I always enjoy a Blueberry Festival, so I might just go. Jim?
Nothing for me at this time.
I'm okay.
Sarah?
Nothing, thank you.
Jackie?
Yeah. I think we heard about 2 upcoming events already tonight. That's the car show and Midnight Madness this Thursday. And then the COPS, C-O-P-S-S event, Saturday morning at Walmart from 10 to 3. And then I wanted to add one more, which is Tuesday, August 28th, is the local option tax forum at the Bennington Theater. So if you have July 20th? That's not what I said.
You said August.
Oh, it's July 20th. So it's 2 weeks and 1 day from tonight. So the next time this board meets, it will be the following day, so that might be tight for people to get on their calendars. So July 28th at the Bennington Theater. You can grab some tickets on their website, sign up. Please come learn about that proposal.
Right. So we have need for an executive session.
Apparently we do not.
Apparently we do not.
Yeah, which is good because I think we've all had a long day.
I think we no longer have need for an executive session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much, everyone.